Chapter 1463. Xiao Baiyu and the other pure yang cultivators, along with the North Sea Water Sword Immortal, had taken down one of the 6 sacred lands, the 9 Mystical Tower, forcing the 9 Mystical Tower to activate the Forbidden Formation to protect itself. This had caused an uproar in the cultivation world. The other 5 sacred lands and the Yuan family quickly sent pure yang cultivators to the 9 Mystical Tower to investigate. Unfortunately, the 9 Mystical Tower had already activated the Forbidden Formation, so only some ordinary disciples and 9 Mystical Tower cultivators were left behind. Subsequently, these people tried to search for traces of Xiao Baiyu and the others. However, Xiao Baiyu and the others had disappeared after capturing the 9 Mystical Tower and snatching the mini Kiliacosm. At the same time, they also learned from the 9 Mystical Tower's disciples that the pure yang cultivator, 8th Sister Zhu, had left with them. Soon, 8th Sister Zhu's betrayal of the 9 Mystical Tower once again shocked the entire cultivation world. Soon, some people determined that the reason why the 9 Mystical Tower was captured was not only because of the terrifying strength gathered by Xiao Baiyu and the others, but also because the 9 Mystical Tower was at its lowest point. The most important reason was probably 8th Sister Zhu's sudden betrayal. Soon, well-informed people unearthed the old story of Xiao Baiyu and 8th Sister Zhu's relationship. It was said that at that time, the 9 Mystical Tower had tried to use 8th Sister Zhu to win over Xiao Baiyu, a rising star who was already famous in the world at that time. However, the honey trap ultimately failed, and the two parted on bad terms. However, it seemed that the two still maintained their relationship. However, it was not 8th Sister Zhu who had captured Xiao Baiyu, but Xiao Baiyu who had taken away 8th Sister Zhu's heart. The cultivation world might not be clear about what the loss of the 9 Mystical Tower's mini Kiliacosm meant to the 9 Mystical Tower, but the other 5 sacred lands understood it very well. Soon, the entire cultivation world would probably guess what had happened. After all, 11 pure yang cultivators had joined forces to capture the 9 Mystical Tower. It was definitely not as simple as snatching a mini Kiliacosm. So, what else in the 9 Mystical Tower attracted the 11 pure yang cultivators the most? The result was obvious. It was the inheritance of the Holy Land, the secret of the Holy Land's true spirit that would never be broken. Needless to say, this secret was hidden in the 9 Profound Towers Minor Thousand World. As a result, the entire cultivation world surged with undercurrents once again. The other 5 Holy Lands no longer dared to harbor any more thoughts. The destruction of the 9 Mystical Tower had definitely aroused the vigilance of the 5 Holy Lands. Naturally, their target would be the 10 pure yang realm cultivators who had seized the minor Kiliacosm. However, if the 10 of them were to gather together, not even the other 5 sacred lands would dare to provoke them, let alone those from the cultivation world. However, these 10 pure yang experts each had their own sect background, so they would not gather together. In that case, when they were alone, didn't that mean that everyone had a chance to obtain the sacred land's inheritance? Unfortunately, the 10 pure yang cultivators had disappeared without a trace. Although the cultivation world was surging with undercurrents, the 10 pure yang cultivators never showed themselves again. If a pure yang cultivator wanted to deliberately hide in the cultivation world, it would be almost impossible to find them unless true spirit Lao Zu took action. At this time, Lu Ping had quietly met up with Yin Tianchu, who was hiding in a deep mountain along the Qingming River. Amazing! Yin Tianchu obviously wasn't just waiting in the mountains. He was well aware of what was happening in the cultivation world. Even though Yin Tianchu was used to Lu Ping's amazing feats, he had to admit that Lu Ping's feats were getting more and more amazing each time he saw Lu Ping and the other pure yang cultivators. Yin Tianchu was used to Lu Ping's amazing feats, but he had to admit that Lu Ping's feats were getting more and more amazing. Lu Ping smiled and said, "I'm just relying on my strength to bully the weak. It's nothing." Yin Tianchu returned all the things that Lu Ping had left for him and asked, "Will this cause trouble for you in the sect?" Lu Ping nodded and said, "I'm afraid I'll have to hide for a while. As long as they can't find me, then no one will dare to provoke my sect. However, junior brother, you need to return to the sect as soon as possible and inform the sect master to be careful and further strengthen the cooperation between the 5 sect alliances. Also, the beast-taming spirit sect can be considered a public target now. In order to avoid being discovered, the sect's plans will be put on hold until I return to the sect. In Tianchu knew that what Lu Ping and the others had done this time was a huge matter. If they did not keep a low profile and further strengthen the cooperation with the Tianqian sect, Skyrend, and the other two sects, it was very likely that they would incur the wrath of the public. At this time, perhaps the cultivation world would be wary of Xiao Baiyu and the others because they were in hiding, but the suppression of the sects that participated in the attack on the Nine Profound Tower was inevitable. The pure young masters had long been prepared for this before they separated. Under the suppression of almost the entire cultivation world, the sects might be in a more difficult situation. However, compared to obtaining the inheritance of the Holy Land, this kind of loss was completely bearable. In fact, compared to the Tianqian sect, the Heavenly Moon sect, Skyrend, the Beast-Taming Spirit sect, and the Carefree Pavilion, Jinling's situation was already good enough. After all, Jinling was alone in the North Sea, and there was not a single sect in the entire North Sea cultivation world that had the strength to resist Jinling. It could be said that Jinling's current control over the North Sea cultivation world was even greater than the Crystal Palace's control over the East Sea. Therefore, the impact it received was almost the least. Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu stayed in the deep mountains for a few more days, mainly waiting for Lu Ping to sort out the harvest from the Nine Profound Towers mini-world. After selecting a small portion that Lu Ping might use, the rest would be handed over to Yin Tianchu to bring back. Of course, some of the important inheritances that were related to secrets were handed over to Yin Tianchu to bring back, while the rest were still carried by Lu Ping. Even so, the things that Lu Ping gave him were enough to shock Yin Tianchu, who had always had a cold expression. Remember, this time, I might disappear without a trace for decades, or even longer. These things are used by the sect to recuperate and strengthen during this period of time. Yin Tianchu nodded and said, "Don't worry." Lu Ping nodded and said, "Directly sneak back to the North Sea from the Yingshanside courtyard. Don't let anyone discover your traces. Don't use the Tianqian sect or the Heavenly Moon sect's super teleportation formation. At this time, your whereabouts might be linked to me." After sending off Yin Tianchu, Lu Ping simply sank into the Qingming River to recuperate for more than a month. When his strength had recovered to its peak, he followed the Qingming River eastward and headed towards the Nine Profound Tower. After the Nine Profound Tower was attacked, the dojo's disappearance into the void caused a huge uproar in the cultivation world. However, although the undercurrent of the cultivation world surged towards Lu Ping and the 10 pure Yang realm cultivators who had obtained the Nine Profound Towers' true spirit inheritance, the storm on the surface was towards the Nine Profound Towers encampment. Everyone knew that although the Nine Profound Towers still had the pure Yang realm cultivators and the Nine Profound Towers dojo, the Nine Profound Towers' decline in the cultivation world was already a foregone conclusion. Since it was already a foregone conclusion, there was nothing to be afraid of. Now that the Nine Profound Towers' true elites had all gone into the void with the dojo, how could the remaining few of them defend the Nine Profound Towers' huge encampment? In addition, the Nine Profound Towers' vast territory and cultivation resources had now become the target of competition between the various sects in the cultivation world. Of course, the Nine Profound Towers' might was still there. Although the various sects wanted a piece of the pie, they still had to cover it up and not be too unsightly. Even so, it had only been slightly more than a month since Lu Ping and the others attacked the Nine Profound Towers encampment. The Nine Profound Towers encampment had already been successively attacked by unknown sects several times. The remaining disciples of the Nine Profound Tower tried to protect the encampment, engaging in a life and death battle with the invading forces. However, they were powerless and suffered heavy casualties. The Nine Profound Towers encampment was plundered again and again. In the end, even the hearts of the remaining 9 Profound Tower cultivators were shattered. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. The remaining 9 Profound Tower cultivators either died or fled. Only the most loyal disciples remained to defend the encampment, waiting for the 9 Profound Towers dojo to return. Lu Ping did not expect that in just a little more than a month, the 9 Profound Tower, one of the 6 great Holy Lands, would fall to such a state. The encampment had become an unguarded wilderness, allowing anyone to come and go as they pleased. And one of the main culprits for all of this was Lu Ping himself. Lu Ping let out a sigh. The nine profound tower had completely fallen apart, and even his heart was shattered. Even if Yang Lan and Lao Zu returned to the nine profound dojo, they would not be able to stop the nine profound tower from falling apart. Furthermore, Yang Lan and Lao Zu might not even be able to wait until the day the nine profound dojo returned. Lu Ping calmed himself down and expelled the scene of the nine profound tower from his mind. He was confident that Zhenling would not fall to such a state like the nine profound tower in the future. However, the nine profound tower would still serve as a warning to Zhenling. Silently, Lu Ping once again returned to the nine profound tower's encampment. Holding a spatial essence in his hand, he circulated his spatial divine ability. Following the unique frequency of spatial fluctuations, Lu Ping spent most of the night searching for the traces he had left behind. Yang Lan, Lao Zu, and the rest of the nine profound tower's cultivators, who were hiding in the dojo to recuperate, would never have thought that he would be able to make a comeback. Lu Ping threw away the last trace of pity he had for the nine profound tower. Finding a secluded place, he casually threw the spatial essence in his hand into a pile of rubble. Then, he formed several hand seals, and an invisible ripple caused Lu Ping's entire body to become illusory. Space rippled like water, and when the ripple stopped, Lu Ping's figure disappeared into the rubble. In an unknown space, two specks of light suddenly flashed out of nowhere. Then, a spatial door gradually opened, and a small person about a foot tall jumped out and walked around. The small person quietly assassinated two nine profound tower cultivators who had been attracted by the spatial fluctuations. Then, Lu Ping stepped out of the spatial door. After the door behind him disappeared, he looked around and recalled Lu Xiaoping. After dealing with the two corpses, Lu Ping immediately concealed himself and disappeared. Chapter 1464. The moment Lu Ping arrived, he had scanned the spatial rift hidden by the nine profound tower with his divine sense. The spatial fluctuations caused by Lu Ping entering the nine profound tower's dojo could not be hidden from Yang Lan Lao Zu, so Lu Ping did not deliberately hide his tracks. However, what Lu Ping did not expect was that Yang Lan Lao Zu did not notice Lu Ping's arrival at all. This confused Lu Ping. Could it be that the nine profound tower had connected the nine profound dojo to the outside world so quickly? Could Yang Lan Lao Zu have already left? Since his arrival did not attract the attention of the nine profound tower, Lu Ping was naturally happy to hide. After all, it was too shocking for him to suddenly appear in the nine profound tower's dojo at this time. If the news was leaked, people would immediately associate it with the hollow spirit. The thought of shocking made Lu Ping's heart skip a beat. At this time, Lu Ping had already discovered that the nine profound tower's defense was lax. However, this was not surprising. They had already hidden the dojo in the spatial rift. Even the true spirit Lao Zu might not be able to find traces of them. The previous battle had also caused the nine profound tower to suffer heavy casualties. Now that they were temporarily in the spatial rift, they were naturally very relaxed. Yang Lan Lao Zu had been seriously injured by 8th Sister Zhu's sneak attack, and then his palm was cut off by Xiao Baiyu's sword. After forcibly activating the Forbidden Break formation, he was probably at the end of his flight. No one knew where he was hiding in seclusion. If this was the case, it would explain why Lu Ping had not been discovered when he entered the dojo. There were still 4 great cultivators in the nine profound tower, but Lu Ping only detected the auras of 2 of them. The other 2 were nowhere to be seen. It didn't take long for Lu Ping to sneak around the dojo. Only then did he realize that there were only a small number of 9 mystic cultivators in the dojo. Most of the remaining cultivators were either in closed-door cultivation or recovering from their injuries. It seemed like the 9 mystic pavilion had understood their predicament after the battle that day and were working hard to improve themselves. In order to stop Xiao Baiyu's invasion, the 9 profound tower's high-level cultivators had also suffered heavy casualties. Now that they had finally found a safe place to recuperate, they needed to focus on recuperating from their injuries. This was so that they could work hard to establish the 9 profound towers' position in the world of cultivation in the future. However, the more the 9 profound towers' cultivators were like this, the more determined Lu Ping was to kill them. In fact, if the void essence was in the hands of Xiao Baiyu, 7 Fan Lao Zu, and the others, they would still adopt the same strategy as Lu Ping and eliminate the void essence. In fact, they might even be more ruthless than Lu Ping. Of course, the 9 Profound Tower's cultivation resources were still gathered in the 9 Profound Tower. Naturally, Lu Ping would not let others share these benefits. The two great cultivators on duty were not together. Additionally, one of them was handling the affairs of the 9 Profound Tower, while the other was giving a lecture to the cultivators within the 9 Profound Tower. That gave Lu Ping an opportunity to take advantage of. In Lu Ping's opinion, the 9 Profound Tower, with the exception of the Great Isolation Array, was like a ferocious tiger that had been imprisoned and was unaware of its existence. It could only wait to be slaughtered. In the 9 Profound Palace, after Yang Mingho finished sorting out the number of cultivators within the 9 Profound Tower and their respective cultivation bases, he could not help but sigh. The calamity that the 9 Profound Tower had faced this time was even greater than the 10 years of siege from Mara's army. It could be said to be the greatest crisis the 9 Profound Tower had faced since its founding. Although there were still nearly 1,000 elites from the 9 Profound Tower in the 9 Profound Tower, the number of cultivators in the 9 Profound Tower had been reduced to 80%. Yang Mingho Laozu himself did not know if the 9 Profound Tower would be able to restore the former glory of the 9 Profound Tower when it reappeared in the world of cultivation. After letting out a heavy sigh, Yang Mingho Laozu decided to go out and take a walk around the 9 Profound Tower. He mainly wanted to relax. Yang Mingho Laozu had incited the cultivators in the 9 Profound Tower to train hard for the sake of revenge. However, the truth was that Yang Mingho Laozu himself was feeling somewhat lost. Yang Mingho Laozu, who had a heavy heart, did not pay any attention to his surroundings after walking out of the 9 Profound Palace. Rather, it would be more accurate to say that he did not expect to encounter any danger in the 9 Profound Tower. When Yang Mingho Laozu realized that the surroundings were a little too quiet, Lu Ping, who had been lying in ambush, suddenly made his move. "Who is it? Who's there?" Yang Mingho Laozu shouted sternly. His voice was like a rolling wave, but it could not travel far. His voice only traveled a few hundred feet before it disappeared. Yang Mingho's heart sank, but he still held onto the slightest bit of hope. He probed, "Is it Uncle Master Yang?" However, a faint 5-colored light suddenly flickered in the quiet space. 12 5-colored pearls circled around Yang Mingho's body, causing him to suddenly recall a major event that had happened in the world of cultivation. That person had used 12 5-colored pearls to set up a formation and killed 3 great cultivators in one fell swoop, while seriously injuring 2 others. "Lu Tianping, how did you get in here?" Yang Mingho was horrified. He reached out and grabbed a spiritual treasure in his hand. He circulated all the strength in his body and unleashed the strongest attack in his life. It was not to break the 5-colored space, but to attract the attention of the entire 9 Profound Tower when he fought with Lu Tianping. However, a deep shout came from the 5-colored space, "See calming." The patriarch of Yang Mingho's full-force attack did not even have the chance to penetrate the space of the origin quarter-grand formation before it vanished like a clay ox entering the sea. The patriarch of Yang Mingho immediately panicked. Just as he was about to make another move, he heard a muffled cry coming from the boundless void once again. Mountain suppression. Yang Mingho Laozu suddenly felt his body being suppressed by an inexplicable force. He wanted to struggle, but the force became stronger and stronger until Yang Mingho Laozu could not move. Then, he felt a gust of cold wind, and his vision immediately turned upside down. Then, he fell into a deep silence. Lu Ping appeared out of nowhere. He casually stowed away Yang Mingho Laozu's storage artifact and the spiritual treasure he had just used. Afterwards, he waved his right hand and buried Yang Mingho's corpse under some spiritual herb garden or spiritual tree in the Room of Gold. Afterwards, Lu Ping walked into the 9 Profound Hall in a dignified manner. The cultivators guarding the 9 Profound Hall had already died to Lu Ping's sword. The 9 Profound Hall was normally a place where the entire 9 Profound Hall gathered to discuss the sex plans. Its status was similar to Jinling's Heaven's Spirit Hall, so it obviously contained a rich collection. Very soon, Lu Ping found the location of a treasure in the 9 Profound Hall. However, just as he was about to use an ability to collect it, his soul suddenly twitched. He discovered that someone was currently heading over. Lu Ping sighed secretly. It seemed that someone had noticed the disturbance from the clash earlier. However, it did not seem to attract the attention of young Mingho Laozu, or the other two great cultivators who were in seclusion. As a result, the person who came would only be sending himself to his death. However, if Lu Ping had tried to collect the treasure hidden in the 9 profound hall earlier, it would probably have caused an even greater disturbance. It might even have alerted young Mingho Laozu. Although Lu Ping was not afraid, he would definitely be surrounded, which would be troublesome. Huang Shunxiao Laozu, who was currently giving a lecture to the 9 profound hall's cultivators, suddenly sensed a strange ripple of spiritual energy flash by near the 9 profound hall. As a result, he interrupted his lecture and made his way over to the 9 profound hall. At the same time, Huang Shunxiao Laozu became more cautious. He ordered the disciple who was listening to the lecture to inform the other two great cultivators who were in seclusion. The area before the 9 profound hall was peaceful. Nothing had happened, but Huang Shunxiao Laozu felt his heart palpitate for no reason when he saw the 9 profound hall. He could not help but laugh to himself. Huang Shunxiao Laozu was suddenly shocked. The 9 profound hall was just a little too quiet. No, where did the disciples guarding inside and outside the 9 profound hall go? Senior young Mingho should already know that I've arrived. So why is there still no movement from the 9 profound hall? Huang Shunxiao raised his arm and a beam of light shot into the sky. This was the 9 profound hall's warning signal. Once the 9 profound hall's cultivators received this signal, they would be ready for battle. However, the beam of light that shot into the sky only illuminated the 5-colored space within a radius of a few dozen feet. Huang Shunxiao Laozu was shocked. He knew that he had fallen into someone else's trap. Immediately after, he felt countless undercurrents flowing in the 5-colored space. Although Huang Shunxiao Laozu tried his best to stabilize his body, these forces were extremely strange. Under the tearing force from all directions, he was no longer able to stabilize his body. Even the true essence in his body was in chaos due to the strange force, and the execution of his divine abilities and dharma spells was greatly affected. After a moment of stalemate, 2 beams of light shot out from the void, followed by a scissor. Huang Shunxiao Laozu's head shot into the sky with hot blood. At this moment, he finally understood that the person who ambushed him was actually Lu Tianping of the North Sea. The 2 beams of light were extremely similar to the pure young spiritual treasure that had caused an uproar in the cultivation world. Chapter 1465. Although Lu Ping did not know that Huang Shunxiao Laozu had prepared a backup plan in advance to kill 2 great cultivators in a row, the scene in the dojo made Lu Ping realize that his infiltration into the dojo had probably been discovered. In that case, there was no need to hide. Lu Ping casually put away the storage artifact in Huang Shunxiao Laozu's hand. Unfortunately, the Grade 1 Tribulation spiritual treasure in his hand had chosen to self-destruct at the last moment. It seemed to be this great cultivator's natal spiritual treasure. After putting away the remains of the spiritual treasure, Lu Ping looked at the 9 mystical temple and temporarily gave up on collecting the Grotto Heaven magic treasure in the 9 mystical temple. If he did so, it would definitely alarm the entire 9 mystical dojo. At this time, although there were 9 mystical cultivators who realized that something was wrong, they obviously did not realize the seriousness of the matter. The aura of 2 great cultivators suddenly appeared in Lu Ping's divine sense, but Yang Lan Laozu was obviously not alarmed. Since things had reached this point, there was no need for Lu Ping to hide anymore. As long as he killed the 2 great cultivators who had obviously not recovered from their injuries in one fell swoop before Yang Lan Laozu could react, then even if Yang Lan Laozu came out of seclusion, he would not be able to reverse the situation. Lu Ping could clearly see that 8th Sister Zhu had used all her strength to sneak attack Yang Lan Laozu from behind. In just over a month, even if there were immortal elixirs in the 9 mystical tower, it would not be able to recover completely. Moreover, Lu Ping had also seen Yang Lan Laozu's strength at that time. A pure young cultivator who was seriously injured and had lost his heaven-opening artifact was not in Lu Ping's eyes. The ambush on Huang Shunxiao had stirred up the spiritual energy again. Even if the 2 9 mystic great cultivators were stupid, they would have known something was wrong. They wouldn't fall into Lu Ping's trap so easily. Since that was the case, Lu Ping decided to conceal himself and head straight for the 2-9 mystic great cultivators. The white feather lotus array diagram instantly extended, and before the two oncoming great cultivators could react, it had already arrived beneath their feet. Who are you? How did you enter my 9 profound dojo? A furious roar shook the entire 9 profound dojo. It's you, Bei. The sudden appearance of the water serene invisible sword shocked the other great cultivator so much that he swallowed back the words he was about to say. Lu Ping sneered inwardly. This time, the 12 gentian beads changed their shapes. Next, the gentian array took shape and the 2 cultivators, who had yet to fully recover, fell into Lu Ping's trap. It's you, Lu Tianping of the Northern Sea. How did you get into my 9 profound dojo? The other great cultivator finally managed to evade the invisible water nether sword's attack and shouted. Lu Ping sneered. Why are you shouting so loudly? Now that you've entered my array, you won't make a single sound even if you shout until your throat breaks. The 2 great cultivators' expressions immediately changed. The reason why they shouted so loudly was to inform all the cultivators in the dojo. Since Lu Tianping of the Northern Sea had appeared, the only way to match him was to awaken Yang Lan Laozu, who was in seclusion. Otherwise, everyone in the 9 profound tower would have to face a merciless slaughter with no escape route. However, the gentian array that took shape in an instant caused the 2 great cultivators' hearts to sink to the bottom. Because Lu Ping had deliberately concealed the colorful light within the gentian array, the 2 great cultivators didn't immediately expose Lu Ping's identity. In fact, this was the effect that Lu Ping wanted. He didn't need to hide it from others. He just needed to hide it from the other cultivators in the dojo. The 2 great cultivators at their peak were no match for the Northern Sea Water Sword Immortal. Now that the 2 of them had yet to recover from their serious injuries, they were even less able to fight back. The 2 great cultivators' faces instantly revealed looks of despair. However, something unexpected happened that Lu Ping didn't expect. Strange spiritual energy fluctuations suddenly appeared on the 2 great cultivators' bodies. Even Lu Ping himself was shocked at this moment. Self-destruct. You're crazy. One of the great cultivators sneered and said, in any case, we're all going to die at the hands of the Northern Sea Water Sword Immortal. If we can drag the Northern Sea Water Sword Immortal down with us, then it'll be worth it. Lu Ping sneered. Layers of spatial barriers started piling up in front of him and the 2-9 mystic great cultivators. He said, Do you really think you can take me down with you just by self-detonating? The other great cultivator said, We're all going to die anyway. As long as we can seriously injure you and alarm Uncle Yang Shi, it'll be worth it. Lu Ping cursed in his heart. This time, he had failed. He still had fantasies in his heart and was still unwilling to reveal his identity. Thus, he couldn't remove the gentian formation, at least not before the 2 of them self-destructed. He simply summoned the 9-dragon bell, which shrouded him in a golden light. At the same time, he wrapped the cloud sail around his body and fled outside the formation. It's too late to leave now. Lu Tianping, let's all die together. The 2 great cultivators immediately activated their core space. However, in that split second, the nether water sword suddenly appeared behind one of the great cultivators and pierced through his core space, destroying the Dharma idol inside. At the same time, Lu Xiaoping also appeared next to the great cultivator, and with a slash of the azure willow sword, he beheaded the great cultivator. The great cultivator's self-destruction was instantly stopped. However, Lu Ping no longer had a chance to stop the other great cultivator's self-destruction. This was because Lu Ping had used most of the power of the gentian formation to protect himself. Thus, the moment the great cultivator self-destructed, the gentian formation began to collapse. The spatial barriers stacked in front of Lu Ping were instantly wiped out by the tyrannical power of the great cultivator's self-destruction. The 9-dragon bell followed with a loud bang, and the golden light hanging down was immediately shattered. At the same time, a series of loud booms exploded in the training ground. The 9 Shin cultivators who came to help felt a sharp pain in their heads. Even a few who had just advanced to the early Dharma stage felt dizzy and fainted. The other low-level cultivators were even worse off. Although Lu Ping still had the protection of the cloud sail and the shield of vigor, he was still powerless under the threat of a great cultivator's self-destruction at close range. In addition, the Gentian formation was instantly broken. Lu Ping's core space also shook violently. Then, he felt a sweetness in his throat and a mouthful of blood overflowed from his mouth. He had been too careless. As soon as this thought arose in Lu Ping's mind, he felt an extremely strong divine will sweep over from a remote place in the training ground. The strength of this divine will was actually not below that of Lu Ping's. It was Yang Lan Laozu. The self-destruction of the 9 Xian cultivators had finally alarmed Yang Lan Laozu, who was in the midst of his closed-door training. Lu Ping secretly felt that it was a pity. This time, even if he did not completely destroy the entire 9 Xian Tower, he had planned to destroy all the high-level combat power of the 9 Xian Tower. However, he did not expect that the 2 great cultivators from the 9 Xian Tower would be so decisive and choose to self-destruct as soon as they appeared. Now that Lu Ping was still seriously injured, if he forced himself to fight with Yang Lan Laozu, even if he won in the end, it would not be worth it. Forget it. I'll retreat first. In the future, I'm afraid there won't be another chance. He casually collected the scattered things of the 2 great cultivators into the Golden House because of the self-destruction of the storage artifact. The second sweep of great ancestor Yang Lan's spiritual thoughts had come over. Lu Ping did not want to expose his identity, so he could only look at the spatial magic treasure in the 9 Xian Hall close at hand and sigh. Then, he turned into a stream of light and instantly arrived at the place where he had entered the training ground. The space essence in his hand flashed again, and the moment the spatial door appeared, he plunged into it. Behind him, Yang Lan Laozu had already caught up with him. An extremely angry shout was heard, "Scoundrel, where are you going?" Chapter 1466. Lu Ping was filled with hatred. His plan had been ruined by the self-destruction of the 2 great practitioners of the 9 mystical tower. Lu Ping, who had intended to take advantage of the situation, had been injured by the self-destruction. Faced with Yang Lan Laozu's pursuit, he had no choice but to temporarily avoid it. The moment he used the space spirit to pass through the forbidden formation, Lu Ping retrieved the 2 space spirits that were placed on top of the formation's protective barrier. The space tunnel shrank rapidly as Lu Ping entered. Yang Lan Laozu saw that he could not catch up with the enemy, so he could only use a divine ability to rush into the space portal. Immediately, the forbidden formation shook violently. Yang Lan Laozu stood at the spot where the man had disappeared. He was furious and coughed violently. Only when all the spittle that flew out turned into blood did he calm down. He let out a long sigh, and his expression revealed a trace of sorrow. "Master Granduncle." The voice of a 9 mystical tower practitioner came from behind him. If Lu Ping was here, he would have recognized this person as Sun Liuhe, one of the 3 direct disciples of the 9 mystical tower. Yang Lan Laozu immediately restrained the expression on his face. He turned around and asked in a low voice, "How is it?" Sun Liuhe, who had always been known for his frivolity, had a solemn expression on his face. He said in a trembling voice, "Master Yang, Master Huang, and the others have all died. In addition, a few disciples and 2 early Dharma disciples have also met with misfortune." Yang Lan Laozu's body trembled when he heard this, but he still managed to keep his voice steady. He asked quietly, "Did anyone else in the sect discover the intruder? Do you know who he is?" Sun Liuhe lowered his head and said, "No, no one discovered how the intruder entered the scene. He seemed to have deliberately hidden himself. No one met him, so we don't know his identity or his level of cultivation." Wah! Yang Lan Laozu could no longer hide the anger in his heart. He spat out another mouthful of blood. "Martial Granduncle!" Sun Liuhe cried out in alarm and hurriedly went forward to support Yang Lan Laozu's body. Then, he heard Yang Lan Laozu say in a sorrowful voice, "Our 9 mystical tower has always been the best in the cultivation world since the creation of the heavens. Who would have thought that we would encounter such a calamity? You must remember that Xiao Baiyu, Qifan, Full Moon, Fenglu, Shihua, Lin Yu, Yuan Pokong, Yang Shouchong, Lu Tianping, and eighth sister Zhu are all sworn enemies of our nine mystical tower. As long as one of us survives, we must have the thought of revenge, especially that eighth sister Zhu. She's a traitor. She's even more despicable than those 9 people who ruined my sect. When Sun Liuhe saw that Lao Zu's mind was in a mess, he hurriedly said, "Martial Granduncle, this disciple will remember everything. In the future, when this disciple's cultivation is successful, I will definitely avenge our sect." Avenge? Yang Lan Laozu was, after all, a top-notch pure yang cultivator. However, he was not confused and could still clearly see the reality that the remaining members of the 9 mystical tower were facing. Yang Lan shook his head and said, "No, no, no. Don't be in a hurry to avenge our sect. Right now, our sect is at a critical juncture of life and death. The key is the inheritance. Yes, the inheritance. We must ensure that our sect's inheritance will not be cut off before we seek revenge. Those who destroyed our sect are all top-notch figures in the cultivation world. Now that our sect's minor kiliacosm has been robbed, the immortal inheritance has been broken, and the heaven-splitting divine weapon has been lost. At this time, even if we want to seek revenge, it will be beyond our power. We must first protect ourselves, and then wait for an opportunity to act." Yes, that's it. Even the dignified pure Yang Laozu seemed somewhat incoherent at this time. Fortunately, he was not confused and could still clearly see the reality that the remaining members of the 9 mystical tower were facing. Yang Lan Laozu paused and collected his thoughts before looking at Sun Liuhe. He sighed inwardly and said, "For the next few days, you will follow the old man to cultivate. Out of the 9 great inheritances of our sect, apart from the first Yuan Tower Master, the 3 Talents Tower Master, and the 5 Elements Tower Master who advanced to the late Dharma stage and were secretly sent to travel by the sect, the Yin and Yang Tower Master who died in the battle with Mara's army, and the 4 Symbols Tower Master who was killed by Xiao Baiyu and Shi Hua in the previous battle to destroy the sect. You are the only one left in the dojo who can be trained." Sun Liuhe was excited, but he managed to suppress it on his face. He bowed and said, "Thank you for your guidance, Uncle Master. I will do my best." After Lu Ping escaped from the 9 mystical tower dojo, he hid his tracks and once again entered the Qingming River to cultivate and recover from his injuries. However, he would often use the art of sea deception to change his appearance and walk around the world of cultivation so that he could keep abreast of the developments in the world of cultivation. As Lu Ping had expected, after the 9 mystical tower dojo escaped into the crack in the void and shocked the entire world of cultivation, the 11 pure yang cultivators, including 8th Sister Zhu, who were involved in this matter, all hid in the world of cultivation. Although the other 5 Holy Lands condemned this behavior and even threatened to make the sects that these pure yang cultivators belonged to pay the price, in the end, their actions were all bark and no bite. However, although the 5 Holy Lands did not make a move, it did not mean that no other sects responded to the call of the Holy Lands and took advantage of the situation. First, the Heavenly Xin sect, Heavenly Moon sect, and Skyrend all suffered different degrees of suppression, especially when the 5 sects joined forces to fight against the Crystal Palace in the East Sea. Now, the Heavenly Xin sect and Heavenly Moon sect were greatly affected, and Skyrend was also greatly affected. Jinling's situation was the best, but it was not as if no one wanted to deal with them. Therefore, they had no choice but to withdraw all the forces that had gone deep into the East Sea back to the fallen Mystery Land. Immediately after, another major event that shook the entire world of cultivation happened. The 7 Manifestation sect, a large sect that had been passed down for tens of thousands of years in the West River region, was destroyed overnight. The dojo of the 7 Manifestation sect did not even have time to activate the Forbidden Formation. Everyone was killed inside and out, and everything in the sect was plundered. Lu Ping knew that this was because Sanshin Laozu had died in the process of attacking the 9 mystical tower with everyone else. In fact, this ending of the 7 Manifestation sect had long been foreseen by Lu Ping and the others. However, they could only watch the destruction of the 7 Manifestation sect and sigh. It was not that they were heartless, but at this time, no one knew how many people in the world of cultivation were tracking them. The destruction of the seven manifestation sect was undoubtedly a trap for them. Once any one of them appeared, they would probably be chased endlessly until they died. After that, the sects behind them would immediately face the same fate as the seven manifestation sect. Now, the only thing Lu Ping and the others could do was to hide their traces. Only in this way would the cultivators of the various sects be wary of them and not dare to kill the sects behind them. Even so, Lu Ping felt that he should do something. It would be best if he could make these people have some misgivings. At the very least, they would restrain themselves from suppressing Jinling and the other sections. The news of Sanchen Laozu's death might have already been known in the world of cultivation. However, at that time, Sanchen Laozu did not directly participate in the attack on the Nine Mystical Tower. Instead, he was killed by the cultivators of the Yuan family who rushed over after arriving outside the Nine Mystical Towers formation. Therefore, only the Yuan family who first knew of Sanchen Laozu's death would be able to make preparations within a short period of a month and brazenly launch a war against the Seven Manifestation sect. It seemed that he had to teach the Yuan family a lesson. It seemed that Lu Ping was not the only one who thought of this. 3 days later, the great cultivator of the Yuan family, Yuan Qingtian, went missing in the cultivation world of the Qingming River west. 2 days later, her body was found dumped in the wilderness in the west of the river. Just 1 day after Yuan Qingtian went missing, 3 early Dharma adepts of the Yuan family were killed at the same time in the cultivation world of the Central Plains. This was within the sphere of influence of the Yuan family. The Yuan family immediately sent pure young adepts to investigate, but in the end, they found nothing. 2 days later, one of the direct disciples of the Yuan family who was traveling in the Nanjiang cultivation world lost contact. The sole lamp of the family was extinguished. A large number of masters of the Yuan family rushed to Nanjiang, but in the end, they only found a corpse. After another few days, in a mountain range in the north of the Central Plains cultivation world, a hurricane suddenly descended near the base of the Yuan family. It was obvious that someone had performed an unparalleled magic. Although it did not cause much damage to the Yuan family, it caused the entire Yuan family to panic for a while. There was a rumor that before the hurricane arrived, someone had seen a huge feather fan floating in midair and slowly descending from the west side of the mountain. This wave of harassment and attacks against the Yuan family lasted for about 3 months. The Yuan family had lost more than 10 Dharma adepts, including 3 great adepts. This kind of loss was enough to make the Yuan family furious, but they could do nothing about it. The person who had attacked was very powerful, and there was almost no time for him to miss. Moreover, he usually left after a single attack. He never lingered for a long time, and the places of his attacks were almost all over the Central Plains cultivation world. There was no way for anyone to figure out where he had gone, let alone who had done it. Naturally, there was no way for them to counterattack. In fact, at this time, anyone in the cultivation world with a brain knew that the person who had attacked was probably the pure Yang Laozu of the various sects who had taken down the Ninshan Tower. They had used this method to vent their anger for the destruction of the 7 Manifestation clan, and at the same time, they were warning the entire cultivation world not to play with fire. However, this battle had also led to an unexpected change. No one had ever noticed that the traces of the Yuan family practitioners had actually spread throughout the entire cultivation world. This time, the attacks against the Yuan family had occurred in every corner of the cultivation world. It seemed that the important practitioners of the Yuan family could be found everywhere. There had always been a rumor in the cultivation world that when the Mara disaster broke out, wherever the Yuan family practitioners appeared, the disaster of Mara would occur. Now that the Mara disaster in the cultivation world had gradually subsided, the practitioners of the Yuan family still remained in every corner of the cultivation world. What exactly were they plotting? Because of the deterrence of these pure young level great practitioners who were hiding in unknown places, the suppression of the sects behind these great practitioners was naturally much more relaxed. This went on for about 30 to 40 years. The peaceful cultivation world seemed to have made people forget the threat of these pure young practitioners. However, they never forgot the benefits that the sects behind these pure young practitioners had gained. Hence, the suppression of these sects rose again. Chapter 1467. Perhaps it was because of the instigation of the Holy Land sects behind the scenes, or perhaps it was because of greed, but in just 30 to 40 years, the incident of a few pure Yangs causing the Yuan family to be in such a sorry state seemed to have long been forgotten, and so the suppression of these sects was once again on the rise. However, this was just the beginning. All these years, great masters who had been hiding somewhere, and even made people think that these people were dead, suddenly appeared and killed this seedling. This time, it was the Koi Demon Clan and the North Sea Demon Clan who were unlucky. Lu Tianping, who had disappeared for an unknown period of time, suddenly appeared in the upper reaches of the Yulon River, single-handedly killing into the Yulon River tribe where the Koi clan was located, killing 2 early Dharma adepts, 3 mid-Dharma adepts, and 1 late Dharma adept. In addition, he severely injured 2 late Dharma adepts and left, taking away the Koi clan's supreme inherited sword technique, the Heavenly Gate sword formation. The pure Yang Laozu of the Koi clan could not catch up, and the entire Koi clan was terrified, and the cooperation with the North Sea Primordial Giant Crocodile clan was cancelled midway. The North Sea Demon clan had secretly joined forces with several sects of the North Sea to launch a surprise attack on Jinling, but it was completely defeated by Jinling. This time, a new late Dharma adept appeared in Jinling, and the appearance of Mei Tianqin used an extremely explosive method to suppress the provocations of the Haiyan sect and Shuiyin Pavilion. And when faced with the attack of the North Sea Demon Clan, another third-generation disciple of Jinling made a name for himself. In the face of the beast tide that the Demon Clan had set off in the waters of Jinling, Jinling did not even use its treasured ships. The 2 great practitioners, Celestial Laozu and Jiang Tianlin, blocked 2 great practitioners of the Demon Clan, while the other great practitioner was held up by a mid-Dharma adept. This third-generation adept at the mid-Dharma stage was not Yin Tianchu, who had previously shone brightly in the East Sea. Instead, it was Ji Tianxian, a direct disciple of the Jinling clan who was proficient in making puppets and had previously only had a little fame in the North Sea. After Lu Ping gave Ji Tianxian the legacy of the avatar he obtained from the Longhuai ancestor, the gap between Ji Tianxian, who was originally known as one of the 3 heroes of the true spirits and the 1 immortal and 1 fiend, was almost forgotten by the outstanding cultivators of the 3 generations of Jinling. This feeling of being forgotten finally disappeared completely after Ji Tianxian successfully refined 2 natal puppets with the external incarnation technique and passed the first lightning tribulation in one go. Relying on the coordination between his 2 natal puppets and his main body, Ji Tianxian, who was at the mid-Dharma stage, managed to block the attack of a primordial giant crocodile clan great practitioner. Yin Tianchu, who was hiding in the middle of the battlefield, suddenly attacked and severely injured the primordial giant crocodile. After that, the 2 of them joined forces to hunt down and kill the Demon Clan great practitioner completely in the Jinling waters. The beast tide instigated by the North Sea Demon Clan quickly collapsed due to the death of the Demon Clan great practitioner. Although the Demon Clan suffered heavy losses, the Jinling side also paid a heavy price. In particular, Jinling had to resist the beast tide while suppressing the Shuiyin Pavilion and the Haiyan sect, which resulted in the deaths and injuries of several Dharma adepts in Jinling. In this way, the cultivation world once again calmed down for another 50 to 60 years. The plot against the Tianxian sect and the other 4 allied sects came again. This time, the unlucky ones were the Crystal Palace, the Purple Talisman Pavilion, the Wind and Thunder Island, the Wuxing School, the Taishan sect, the Lingwu sect, the Huta sect, and the Flowing Cloud Pavilion. Just as the Crystal Palace and the other 2 sects were stirring up trouble in the East Sea again, several central sects, led by the Wuxing School, suddenly rushed to the Treasure Island in the waters under the jurisdiction of the Tianxian sect, trying to rob the large spirit stone mine there. Among these central sects, other than the Wuxing School, the Taishan sect was originally the most powerful. However, in recent years, the great practitioners of the Taishan sect had repeatedly fallen in the hands of the Tianxian sect and Lu Ping, greatly weakening their strength. Now, the Taishan sect had long been surpassed by the Flowing Cloud Pavilion, becoming the largest sect attached to the Wuxing School. As the Taishan sect declined day by day, the Cloud Sky Pavilion took advantage of the situation to rise. Especially after the 9 Mysteries Tower was conquered, The Cloud Sky Pavilion took the opportunity to expand their sect's power to the south, obtaining many of the territories that originally belonged to the Nine Mysteries Tower, and the sect's power grew by leaps and bounds. Then, 20 years ago, the cultivator in charge of the Flowing Cloud Pavilion, Yuntian Laozu, successfully summoned the Third Thunder Tribulation and became a pure yang cultivator. The strength of the Flowing Cloud Pavilion skyrocketed. In the north of the Qingming River, it seemed to be on par with the Tianqian sect. However, just as the five central sects tried to unite and attack, Xiao Baiyu, Eighth Sister Zhu, Seven Fans, Full Moon, Lin Yu, and Lu Tianping, the six of them acted at the same time, as if they had agreed to do so. Xiao Baiyu defeated the two pure yang cultivators from the Crystal Palace in the East Sea. Although Lin Yu, Lao Zhu, and Eighth Sister Zhu were defeated in the end, they helped the Xiaoyao Pavilion to stabilize the situation. The Jinling and Luoxin sect still had the most control over the fallen Mystery Land, but most of the former Northern Alliance territory had fallen into the hands of the Crystal Palace and the other two sections. At this time, another piece of news came from the North Sea. The leader of the North Sea Jinling sect, the teacher of the North Sea water sword deity Lu Tianping, Lu Tianling Laozu, had successfully passed the Second Thunder Tribulation. He became the fifth great adept of the late Dharma stage of Jinling, after Tianxiang, Jiang Tianlin, Lu Tianping, and Mei Tianqin. Now, the power of the Jinling sect in the North Sea had greatly surpassed the control that the failing sect had over the North Sea in the past. The footprints of the Jinling cultivators were no longer limited to a corner of the North Sea. Instead, they had begun to set foot in the East Sea and Central Plains, especially in the areas of influence of the Tianqian sect and the Tianyue sect on the eastern coast. It was common to see North Sea cultivators traveling to Central Plains. At the same time, the North Sea was no longer as isolated as before. There were also many Central Plains cultivators who were willing to travel to the North Sea through the long-distance teleportation array to experience the different local customs. In Central Plains, the high-spirited pure yang cultivator of the Flowing Cloud Pavilion, Yuntian Laozu, had yet to lead his sect's cultivators to the territorial waters of the Tianyuan sect when Lu Tianping personally came to find him. Then, he was hunted down for a month. The Flowing Cloud Pavilion was indeed prepared to defend against Lu Tianping, Qi Fan, and the others. Yuntian Laozu also vowed that even if he was no match for these people, he could still delay them until reinforcements arrived. At this time, there were many people in the cultivation world who were watching both openly and secretly. They were certain that Lu Tianping, Qi Fan, and Full Moon would not be indifferent. Once they appeared and were unable to break the stalemate, the cultivators from the various sects who were hiding at the side would be like bloody jackals and wolves who would rush forward to get a share of the loot. In fact, Yuntian Laozu was right. Lu Tianping had indeed appeared, but Yuntian Laozu did not have the strength to stop Lu Tianping's rampage. The imagined scene of a chase really happened, but the one being chased was Yuntian Laozu himself. In 1 month, he was chased by Lu Ping from the eastern coast to the western wilderness. In the end, if Lu Ping did not dare to use his full strength because he was afraid of the cultivators from the various sects who secretly followed him, this new pure yang cultivator of the Flowing Cloud Pavilion in thousands of years, Laozu, would have been either dead or injured. Seven Fan and Full Moon joined hands and fought a fierce battle against the pure yang cultivators of the Five Elements sect, blocking their way to the east. When the rest of the people of the five sects arrived at the island, they were greeted by the treasured ships of Jinling sect, as well as a large number of reinforcements led by Tianxian sect, Tianyu sect, and Heaven-Breaking Sword sect. Once again, the scheme of the five sects failed. At this time, after Lu Ping had taken the opportunity to practice hard for about 100 years, the essence of the Flood Dragon in Lu Ping's body had been completely refined. With the addition of the White Lotus Body Accommodation Elixir, Lu Ping's physical body and cultivation had reached a terrifying level. Lu Ping had also studied the ancient books inherited from the Nine Xian Tower over the years. There were many insights left by the previous pure yang Laozu of the Nine Xian Tower, which had benefited Lu Ping a lot and strengthened his own foundation. At this time, Lu Ping's cultivation had been pushed all the way to the peak of the late Dharma stage. After chasing Yuntian Laozu all the way, Lu Ping felt that his own foundation was strong enough, and it was time to prepare for the pure young thunder tribulation. After causing havoc with the Koi clan, Lu Ping had been hiding in the Yulon River to practice. The Yulon River was completely different from the Qingming River. All these years, Lu Ping had been swimming in the two major water veins. Not only did he use the power of the water veins to improve his cultivation, he also had a new understanding of all kinds of magic skills and techniques. Whether it was the North Sea 12 techniques, the Boiling Heaven Sword technique, the Tianmin Sword technique, the Great River East Sword technique, or the Natal Gentian formation, they were now in the hands of Lu Ping with more ease, and their power had greatly increased. This went on for another 20 to 30 years. On this day, in the sky above the Yulon River, in the middle and lower reaches of the Yulon River, dark clouds covered an area of hundreds of miles. Almost the entire Yulon swamp was now under the cover of this huge celestial phenomenon. Suddenly, a violent surge of lightning began to brew in the thick layers of clouds. The dull sound of thunder was like a stick striking one's chest, causing one's heart to involuntarily beat along with the dull sound of thunder. The heavy pressure was like the descent of a devil god. This kind of pressure not only contained the destructive power of the gigantic meteorological phenomenon, but also a kind of subservience that came from one's bloodline and spirit. Even the cultivators outside the scope of the meteorological phenomenon couldn't help but have an urge to kneel and worship. The appearance of the huge celestial phenomenon in the sky above the Yulon swamp quickly alerted the nearby cultivator sections. Many of the Dharma adepts quickly guessed that this was the sign of the thunder tribulation. However, very few cultivators had seen such a powerful thunder tribulation. Some of the cultivators were fortunate enough to have seen a cultivator of the late Dharma stage summon a second thunder tribulation. Therefore, they were certain that the celestial phenomenon in front of them was far more powerful than the second thunder tribulation. A cultivator of the late Dharma stage must have summoned the third pure young thunder tribulation. To the majority of the cultivators, being able to witness the second thunder tribulation of the late Dharma stage was already an extremely rare thing. To almost all the cultivators, witnessing the third pure young thunder tribulation was something that only existed in legends. But the scale of this thunder tribulation was a little too big, so big that it made people despair. Could this be the true power of the pure young thunder tribulation? With such power, it seemed that for the majority of the cultivators, there was no hope of advancing to the pure young stage. Chapter 1468. Just as the pure young thunder tribulation covered almost the entire lush jade swamp, the massive aura of the thunder tribulation alarmed the powerful beings who were hiding in various corners of the cultivation world. The pure young thunder tribulation was different from other thunder tribulations. As a checkpoint before the true spirit, the pure young thunder tribulation directly bestowed the Dharma form of the cultivator who was undergoing the tribulation with the power of pure yang. This was directly related to whether Lu Ping could become a true spirit in the future. When the thunder tribulation arrived, it would produce an inexplicable connection with the dozens of pure yang cultivators in this world. Lu Ping was shocked. This connection made Lu Ping feel as though he was facing dozens of pure yang cultivators at once. Lu Ping could feel their presence, and they could also understand Lu Ping's current situation. However, Lu Ping did not know that compared to his surprise, the pure young cultivators who were paying attention to his thunder tribulation could no longer be described as shocked. This power of the thunder tribulation, he's simply courting death. How did he summon it? Is he going to undergo the thunder tribulation with his natal numinous treasure? That's crazy. No one can succeed. Although Lu Ping could sense the presence of these people, he could not sense their identities. Naturally, he could not know what these pure young cultivators were thinking about when they saw the thunder tribulation that Lu Ping had summoned. At that moment, Lu Ping had focused all his attention on the raging, pitch-black pure young tribulation cloud in front of him. After more than 100 years of preparation, Lu Ping's body, quintessential essence, spiritual force, and everything else had been adjusted to their peak state. The decision to lead the sword of the true spirit, Emoli, through the pure young thunder tribulation was also a decision that Lu Ping had made after careful consideration. Over the past 100 years, Lu Ping had meticulously studied the ancient books and legacies he had brought back from the Nine Profound Tower. There were speculations regarding the creation of a heaven-splitting divine artifact. The heaven-splitting divine artifact was also a pure yang-grade spiritual treasure, but its might and spirituality far surpassed other pure yang spiritual treasures. Throughout the generations of the Nine Profound House, there were people who guessed that the heaven-splitting divine artifacts might far surpass other pure yang spiritual treasures of the same grade. Firstly, it was because the heaven-splitting divine artifact had been nurtured by heaven-splitting seventh patriarch, and heaven-splitting seventh patriarch's achievements were so high that even cultivators who had achieved true spirit might not be able to match up to him. The second possibility was that the heaven-opening artifact, as the life-bonded spiritual treasure of the heaven-opening Lao Tzu, had most likely gone through 3 thunder tribulations with them, thus greatly increasing its spirituality and power. Of course, doing so was naturally an extremely risky move for a cultivator, but Lu Ping had absolute confidence in his own cultivation. With a slight thought, the pitch-black world suddenly lit up. The void seemed to be torn apart by lightning, and it silently fell on top of Lu Ping's head, followed by a thunderous roar that resounded throughout the world. Even though the power of the pure yang thunder tribulations was earth-shattering, the first 3 thunder tribulations did not pose much of a threat to Lu Ping. Lu Ping relied solely on the strength of his current physical body to survive the first 3 thunder tribulations. From the beginning of the 4th thunder tribulations, Lu Ping's expression showed a little seriousness. He suddenly slapped his chest, and although the roar was not earth-shattering, it was enough to penetrate the void, causing the faces of the pure yang cultivators who were watching Lu Ping's thunder tribulations to change again. What a pure bloodline power, what a strong real essence power. This was obviously a great master who was likely to become a celestial spirit in the future. Among the dozens of pure yang cultivators in the entire cultivation world, how many of them really had a chance of becoming a celestial spirit? Now that the Dharma form of the dragon had changed again, perhaps because of the refinement of the flood dragon's blood essence, the 9th transformation of the Dharma form had been completed before the pure yang thunder tribulations descended. The shape of the head of the Dharma form of the dragon had changed greatly, and it now looked very much like a camel's head. The 4th pure yang thunder tribulations descended, and the Dharma form of the dragon actually went up against it. The lightning fell into the Dharma form's body and disappeared, and the pure yang qi contained in the lightning was swallowed up by the Dharma form. The 5th thunder tribulations followed closely, and this time the Dharma form of the dragon did not have time to completely absorb it. Its body hovered in midair, and it raised its head to swallow the lightning directly into its belly. The entire Dharma form of the dragon was instantly surrounded by lightning. Even Lu Ping's body had become red from the double attack of the pure yang qi and the power of the thunder tribulations. However, the 5th thunder tribulation still could not cause too much damage to Lu Ping. Lu Ping's tyrannical body and vigorous real essence were enough to support the Dharma form of the dragon to eliminate the 5th thunder tribulations. The 6th thunder tribulations followed, and the Dharma form of the dragon looked up to the sky and roared. A huge pure young pearl was spat out from the dragon's mouth, brazenly facing the lightning. Within the pure young pearl, there was a lifelike 9-leaf grass. It was a fully matured samling 5 elements leaf. The pure young thunder tribulation instantly wrapped around the pure young pearl, forming a huge ball of lightning in midair. The Dharma form of the dragon danced around the ball of lightning up and down, and a stream of life essence was spat out from its mouth and seeped into the ball of lightning. The Dharma form of the dragon had always wanted to refine this pure young pearl into its own dragon pearl, but it had always been lacking. After completely absorbing the 6th pure young thunder tribulations, Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. He felt that this was the moment. However, after withstanding 3 thunder tribulations, the Dharma form of the dragon seemed to have reached its limit. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat, and the sword of true spirit, Emoli, who had been indirectly absorbing the pure young power in the core space, flew out and circled around the Dharma form of the dragon. At this moment, there was an explosion in the sky, and the boundless pure young tribulation cloud began to rapidly condense towards the center. A huge vortex was formed in the middle of the tribulation cloud above Lu Ping's head. A bolt of lightning was like a waterfall between heaven and earth, smashing towards the top of Lu Ping's head. The sword of true spirit instantly flew up, and with 2 slashes, the lightning waterfall was immediately divided into 3. One fell on Lu Ping's body, and the clothes on Lu Ping's body were completely turned into ashes. From time to time, lightning flashed between his skin, and his whole body was stiff and motionless. Even moving his eyeballs was difficult. The second bolt was easily withstood by the Dharma form of the dragon. The weak and pure young thunder tribulations did not have much of an impact on the Dharma form of the dragon. The third bolt was absorbed by the sword of true spirit. Rich pure young power flowed within the flying sword, and Lu Ping could even clearly sense that Emo Li's spirituality was rising. The power of the sword of true spirit was increasing, and the connection between it and Lu Ping's mind was getting closer. The 8th bolt of thunder tribulations descended from the sky. This was no longer the impact of the lightning waterfall, but a piece of the pure young tribulation cloud in the sky had been cut off, and it directly descended. Lu Ping, the Dharma form, and the sword of true spirit were all immersed in the thunder tribulations. From the outside, Lu Ping was already surrounded by a huge ball of lightning. The tyrannical power spread to the surrounding void, and even caused the void to start shaking and collapsing. At this moment, Lu Ping was like a cooked prawn. There was not a single part of his body that was not twitching, and the heart in his chest was beating very quickly, almost jumping out of Lu Ping's mouth. Lu Ping wanted to open his mouth to catch his breath, but unexpectedly, the first thing he spat out was a mouthful of blood. The Dharma form's roar was already hoarse. The Dharma form that was condensed from Lu Ping's life essence and bloodline seemed weak under the raging lightning. However, at this moment, there was a flash of golden light in the Dharma form's lower jaw, and it slowly absorbed and dissolved the power of the thunder tribulations. This was where the reverse scale of the Dharma form was, and it was very likely that this reverse scale was a scale that fell off from Zhao Doran's true spirit. The 9 foundation arrays that were originally recorded by Zhao Doran had now become the key for the Dharma form to resist and refine the pure young thunder tribulations. As for the sword of true spirit, it had been hiding in the core space to enjoy the fruits of others' labor. At this moment, it was facing the pure young lightning tribulation with ease. It transformed into a flood dragon that was similar to the Dharma power of the dragon. It swam around in the pure young lightning tribulation and spat out lightning. However, the 8th bolt of lightning was completely absorbed by Lu Ping, and the last bolt of pure young thunder tribulations had already fallen. This time, Lu Ping did not feel like there was lightning falling from the sky. Instead, it felt like he was being sucked into the pure young tribulation cloud in the sky, giving off a feeling that space was being flipped. Lu Ping seemed to have fallen into a world of lightning, and he was constantly being attacked by the raging lightning. At this moment, Lu Ping's physical body had reached its limit. His skin and flesh had already turned black and cracked, giving off a burnt smell. There was no more blood to spit out from his mouth, as if it had been roasted by the lightning. The intense pain had even made Lu Ping numb. He wanted to open his mouth to shout, but he found that there was no sound coming from his mouth. The Dharma form of true spirit was entrenched in the void. Under the attack of the pure young thunder tribulations, it was also on the verge of death. It no longer had the energy to move around, and could only curl up there passively to absorb the power of pure yang. The pure yang pearl and reverse scale were still trying their best to absorb and refine the pure yang thunder tribulations, but it was obvious that they were unable to do so. Only the sword of true spirit still had some strength to struggle, and it was still trying its best to swim in the world of thunder tribulations. However, no matter how one looked at it, it was like a fish out of water, and it was already at the end of its flight. The 9th bolt of tribulation thunder tribulations was still wreaking havoc. At this rate, before the tribulation thunder tribulations dissipated, Lu Ping would already be at the end of his rope. However, in the face of such a desperate situation, Lu Ping struggled to point his finger, which was about to be roasted by the tribulation thunder tribulations, towards his chest. Boom! Like a river bursting through its banks, surging water instantly rang out in Lu Ping's body. His dry and cracked body was instantly nourished by the torrent of water in his body. His wounds were healing, and his body was recovering. In an instant, Lu Ping's body was once again full of life. The Dharma form of true spirit, which was on the verge of death, suddenly raised its head when it heard the sound of flowing water. It saw Lu Ping pointing towards the Dharma form of true spirit. The Dharma form of true spirit seemed to be instantly infused with a powerful life force, and it immediately regained its former vigor and vigor. It once again began to move about in the world of thunder tribulations. At this moment, the sword of true spirit was like a fish that had jumped into the water. It regained its former cheerfulness and swam freely in the thunder tribulations. For the past 100 years, Lu Ping had been swimming and training in the Qingming and Yulon River basins. One of the reasons was that he wanted to use his own life essence to nurture more life essence water and expand the tribulation sea in his core space. He wanted to set up a backup plan for the pure yang tribulation thunder tribulations today. And today, at the most critical and dangerous moment of the pure yang tribulation thunder tribulations, the tribulation's divine water really became the key to turning the situation around. With the nourishment of the tribulation's divine water, Lu Ping broke through the world of thunder tribulations in one fell swoop. The tribulation clouds in the sky were about to dissipate, and the air was filled with heavenly dew along with the thick, pure yang qi. Lu Ping and the Dharma form of true spirit happily absorbed the heavenly dew to recover their inner yuan and injuries. At the same time, the sword of true spirit refined the pure yang qi in the surroundings. At the same time, Lu Ping did not wait for the remaining tribulation clouds in the sky to dissipate. He threw the 7 treasures thunder calabash into the air and absorbed all the remaining tribulation clouds and lightning power that had yet to dissipate into the calabash. Lu Ping's pure yang tribulation thunder tribulations were so powerful that it could be said to be unique in the world of cultivation. Therefore, he also refined the pure yang qi in the end and absorbed a huge amount of heavenly dew. Lu Ping had taken a huge risk, but at the last moment, he finally received a huge reward. The sword of true spirit flew around Lu Ping happily. This was Lu Ping's second pure yang spiritual treasure. At the same time, it was also Lu Ping's personal spiritual treasure. After going through 3 tribulations with his Dharma form, Lu Ping could even feel that he and Emoli were connected by blood. After going through the pure yang tribulation thunder tribulations, Lu Ping finally achieved pure yang cultivation and became an existence that stood at the top of this world. Although Lu Ping already had the status of a pure yang cultivator before this, only when he truly reached the height of a pure yang cultivator could Lu Ping truly feel that he was so close to the end of this world. In the unseen world, Lu Ping felt as if he was bound by a huge cage, and he instinctively wanted to break through this fence and rush out of this world to take a look. However, Lu Ping also knew that this feeling was not real. At the very least, the current Lu Ping had not yet broken away from the true strength of this world. This instinctive feeling pointed out the direction that Lu Ping needed to work hard in, and that was to break through the shackles of this world. Just like the soaring dragon galaxy technique that Lu Ping cultivated, the endless starry sky was perhaps the limit that Lu Ping wanted to pursue. Northern Ice Plains. Chapter 1469. The surging pure yang qi and the large amount of heavenly flower dew that fell from the sky surrounded Lu Ping. At this time, Lu Ping was like a bottomless abyss, swallowing all the pure yang qi and heavenly flower dew. Lu Ping's body was surging with vitality, and his injuries were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Outside the Yingyu swamp, the void suddenly shrank and collapsed, forming a circular door. Then, a middle-aged cultivator with a slightly blank expression stepped out of the door. Looking around, the cultivator seemed to be feeling the surrounding pure yang qi, and then he said, "It should be here." I don't know which cultivator could cause such a big movement. It seems that he has passed the tribulation successfully, but he shouldn't have left yet. In the swamp, Lu Ping, who had just advanced to the pure yang level, was working hard to refine and stabilize the last trace of pure yang qi in his body. He frowned, and at the same time, the inner yuan around his body surged like a river, but he was on guard. At this time, Someone had actually rushed to the Yingyu swamp, and from the aura captured by Lu Ping's divine will, the person's cultivation should be at least of the pure yang level. But the strange thing was, although Lu Ping's tribulation had passed, the aura of the tribulation was still there. Cultivators above the Dharma plane would definitely not dare to go near the Yingyu swamp at this time. This was also the reason why Lu Ping was at ease refining pure yang qi here to recover from his injuries and stabilize his cultivation. But now, there was a cultivator who was at least of the pure yang level who had come to the Yingyu swamp, but the aura of the tribulation in the air of the Yingyu swamp did not pose the slightest threat, and the person who had come did not seem to care at all. Lu Ping's heart trembled, and he opened his eyes. Green and red light burst out, and he looked into the depths of the fog of the Yingyu swamp. The middle-aged cultivator seemed to be moving slowly, but was actually moving quickly towards the area with the densest aura of tribulation. At this moment, he seemed to have sensed something and said, "Hey, have I been discovered? It seems that this person is really extraordinary. The old man was not as good as him back then. What should I do?" Lu Ping took a deep breath. This breath was long enough to even force the air around him to become chaotic. And Lu Ping, who originally looked a little tired because of the thunder tribulation, suddenly looked full of energy, as if the pure yang thunder tribulation did not have the slightest effect on him. Lu Ping suddenly opened his mouth towards the depths of the swamp and said, "Since you're already here, why don't you come out and meet me? Haha, please don't get me wrong. I'm Guangyuan Laozu from Wuxing School. May I know your name?" The fog in the swamp began to disperse, and the middle-aged cultivator walked out with a smile on his face. When he saw Lu Ping from afar, there seemed to be a trace of surprise on his face. He did not expect that Lu Ping would look so young. When a cultivator's cultivation reaches a certain level, although they can often change their appearance, they can't change the vitality in their body. Brilliant cultivators can usually determine a cultivator's cultivation career through the amount of vitality that a cultivator emits. The moment the middle-aged cultivator saw Lu Ping, he was startled at first, then shocked. He unconsciously slowed down his steps towards Lu Ping, and at the same time, the aura around him changed slightly. These changes that happened inadvertently to the middle-aged cultivator were now clearly seen by Lu Ping's divine sense. The corners of Lu Ping's mouth rose slightly, and he said, "It seems that you've guessed my identity. Fellow Taoist from Wuxing School. Haha, you've never been on good terms with me." At this time, the middle-aged cultivator was already standing tens of feet away from Lu Ping. At this time, the aura around him suddenly relaxed for some reason. He said with a smile, "To have such great achievements at such a young age, and also have a grudge against the cultivators of our sect, you must naturally be the rising star of the cultivation world, the North Sea Water Sword Immortal, Lu Tianping." Lu Ping said with a smile, "In front of you. How dare I call myself a sword immortal?" The middle-aged cultivator looked surprised, and he said, "Oh, do you know who I am?" Lu Ping said seriously, "I've seen the pure yang cultivators of your sect, but I've never seen you before. However, your cultivation at the peak of pure yang cannot be faked. I've just gone through the thunder tribulation, and the power of the thunder tribulation has yet to dissipate, but you actually entered the area where I was going through the thunder tribulation so easily. All in all, could it be that you're the supreme Laozu of Wuxing School? But I don't think it's your real body. Is this body a puppet or an incarnation? Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to ignore the power of the thunder tribulation. You should still be in the spirit space of Wuxing School." The middle-aged cultivator's eyes flickered with surprise, and he said, "It seems that the 9 mystical towers' inherited secret technique has really fallen into your hands. I didn't expect you to know so much." Lu Ping did not comment on this, and instead asked, "Did you come to the abundant jade swamp to kill me?" The supreme master of 5 elements, Guangyuan Laozu, smiled and shook his head and said, "The old man actually came here because of the thunder tribulation that you summoned. Such a large-scale pure yang thunder tribulation is indeed something that the old man has never seen in his life." Then, Lu Ping waved his sleeve, and the 5 colored bands of light immediately returned to chaos, and Lu Ping walked through them as if there was no one around. Guangyuan Laozu was very surprised. He didn't think that his five-element divine sense would be so easily dissolved by Lu Ping, and even Guangyuan Laozu was a bit discouraged. He wondered if his guess about how to cultivate after the five-element divine sense was wrong, and if his years of studying the five-element divine sense was wrong. Thinking of this, Guangyuan Laozu's face darkened. He formed a few hand seals and shouted, "Burn!" Lu Ping's expression changed. This was the void fire condensed from the fire attribute divine sense. It was also invisible and colorless, but it could directly burn through the void. It was impossible to defend against, but also impossible to avoid. At this moment, it was closing in on Lu Ping. Guangyuan Laozu smiled proudly and said, "Lu Daoyu, what do you think of the old man's move?" Lu Ping was still floating in the void, and his expression didn't change. Guangyuan Laozu's smile froze on his face, and he snorted coldly. Suddenly, the flame fell on Lu Ping, who was standing still in the void. With a chi-la sound, a cloud of mist rose, and Lu Tianping turned into a puddle of water. Before it could fall to the ground, it was burned completely by the void fire. Guangyuan Laozu was about to recall the void fire and look for Lu Ping again, when a cloud of mist suddenly fell and wrapped around the void fire. If Wu Guangyan hadn't seen it in time and recalled the void fire with his space divine sense, his natal spiritual fire would have been extinguished by the triple light sacred water. Guangyuan Laozu's expression turned ugly. He originally thought that although he was only fighting as a pure young puppet, with the guidance of true spirit Laozu's consciousness, he was not weaker than those experienced pure young cultivators. Moreover, he only needed to try his best to delay Lu Tianping. Guangyuan Laozu also used this ingenious method to seize the initiative. Although it was dangerous, it didn't waste too much of his real essence. All it consumed was the cultivator's mind. This was a test of the cultivator's control of their own Zhen Yuan and the techniques they cast. This was supposed to be Guangyuan Grand Ancestor's forte since he couldn't use his full strength, but he didn't expect that he couldn't even gain the upper hand against Lu Ping. Lu Ping used the triple light sacred water as a medium to cast the art of traveling through clouds and summoning rain to cast a curtain of rain in front of him, blocking Guangyuan Laozu's pursuit. Lu Ping laughed and said, "See you later." Then he disappeared in midair. Guangyuan Laozu's laughter suddenly came from behind him. He said, "Fine. In that case, old man will send Lu Daoyu off." Lu Ping's expression changed slightly. Chapter 1470. In fact, the difference between Lu Ping and Guangyuan Laozu's incarnation was not as big as it seemed. Lu Ping had experienced it himself. However, it was obvious that Guangyuan Laozu's control over the pure young cultivator's power was much better. In this aspect, Lu Ping was also quite good at it. However, after he had just become a pure young cultivator, his power had skyrocketed, and the injuries and mental exhaustion caused by the Thunder Trial made it impossible for Lu Ping to fully unleash the power of a pure young cultivator. That was why he was at a disadvantage in the battle against Guangyuan Laozu. The fire spirit saw Guangyuan Laozu and asked, "Master, is that really Lu Tianping? I didn't expect him to be hiding here. Master, have you fought with him before? How is his power?" Guangyuan Laozu looked at him and the two pure young cultivators behind him and said, "In the future, do not make him your enemy. If you meet him alone, you must avoid him." The fire spirit was a little unwilling. Is this man really that powerful? Even Master couldn't defeat him? Guangyuan Laozu glanced at him and said, "This man's potential is even higher than Xiao Baiyu's. Plus, he should have two pure young spirit treasures." Two pure young spirit treasures? The fire spirit and the others all exclaimed. "I'm afraid one of them is the life treasure that he used to go through the pure young thunder trial with." Guangyuan Laozu sighed and said, "When we meet again in the future, when this man's power is stable, I'm afraid that even the old man's puppet body won't be able to defeat him. Plus, the old man's puppet body can't move too far away. It can only move within 3,000 miles of our sect. Unless his real body comes out, the most he can do is to protect our sect's territory." Shui Lingzi and the others hurriedly thanked him in shame. "We are incompetent. As pure young cultivators, we still need Martial Uncle's help." Guangyuan Laozu waved his hand and said, This world has never lacked geniuses, but it has always been difficult to continue. What our sect needs to do is to ensure that the true spirit's inheritance continues, and that the treasured cauldron of heaven and earth is not lost. Then, the position of the Holy Land will last forever. Although there will be heroes for a time, it will be difficult to touch the foundation of our sect for eternity. The fire spirit bowed and said, Master, you are right. However, that Lu Tianping has quite a grudge against us. A few potential third-generation direct disciples were all killed by him. What should we do? Guangyuan Laozu smiled and said, Then just support him to become a true spirit as soon as possible. The other pure young cultivators were shocked, not knowing what was going on. Guangyuan Laozu smiled and said, Now that the 9 profound towers' small thousand world is in Xiao Baiyu's hands, even if that Lu Tianping also obtained the true spirit's inheritance and the secret of forming a small thousand world, how will he be able to obtain the small thousand world before he becomes a true spirit? Shui Lingzi suddenly understood and said, Without the protection of the small thousand world, even if that Lu Tianping becomes a true spirit, he will not be able to be accepted by this world. He can only be like the other geniuses from the other sects and have no choice but to go to the North Ice Field and leave this world. Guangyuan Laozu nodded and said with a smile, Exactly. In fact, when those geniuses appear in the world of cultivation, the 6 holy lands have always been suppressing them. If they can't suppress them, they will indulge them. They will even secretly help them increase their cultivation in order to make them leave this world as soon as possible so that they can no longer pose a threat to the status of the 6 holy lands. Guangyuan Laozu sighed and said, Unfortunately, no matter how much we calculated, we still couldn't predict Xiao Baiyu's future. We also didn't expect that the 9 Profound Tower would encounter the calamity of Mara and suffer great losses, giving Xiao Baiyu and the others the opportunity to take advantage of. Since the beginning of the world, the 9 Profound Tower is probably the first sect to have to give up its position as a holy land. Then, Martial Uncle, how should we treat Xiao Baiyu and Skyrend who is behind him? Guangyuan Laozu pondered and said, If we can't get rid of Xiao Baiyu when he is in the pure yang state, then when he becomes a true spirit, we will treat Skyrend as a holy land. I think this is also the intention of the other sects. Guangyuan Laozu's words were actually a declaration that he had accepted Skyrend as a holy land. After all, it was not that easy to kill Xiao Baiyu. For the past 100 years, the cultivation world could not even deal with Lu Tianping, who had not yet reached the pure yang state, let alone Xiao Baiyu. This did not include 8th Sister Zhu, who was by his side. Lu Ping did not know that Wuxing School's strategy towards him had changed. When the incident at the lush jade swamp spread throughout the cultivation world, perhaps the other 4 holy lands' attitudes towards Lu Ping would also change. Although Lu Ping found it strange that Guangyuan Laozu could have a puppet incarnation at the peak of pure yang, when he thought about the fact that Longhuai Ancestor also had a similar puppet incarnation, he did not find it too strange. The only thing that surprised Lu Ping was that Guangyuan Laozu did not pursue him after he left the lush jade swamp. Based on the situation at that time, although Guangyuan Laozu could not do anything to Lu Ping, it could still chase him all the way. Or could it be that Guangyuan Laozu's incarnation could not travel as far as Longhuai Ancestor? Speaking of Longhuai Ancestor, Lu Ping had now advanced to the pure yang state. It seemed that after he was ready, he would go to the East Sea's secret place to see if he could help Longhuai Ancestor break the firmament poison. However, with Longhuai Ancestor's strength, once he was free from the firmament poison, would he become a pure yang or a real spirit? Although Lu Ping had tried to figure out Longhuai Ancestor's true strength several times, as his cultivation increased and his experience broadened, the impression that Longhuai Ancestor had left on him became more and more unfathomable. Lu Ping sneaked all the way north. Along the way, he was not in a hurry. Instead, he carefully inquired about the current situation of the North Sea's cultivation world. If Xinling really became a sacred land in the future, then the chaotic Hebei cultivation world would obviously become a springboard for Xinling to expand his forces deep into the Central Plains. Although the narrow North Sea's cultivation world had created a unique and safe environment for Xinling, it also restricted Xinling's further expansion of forces at the same time. It could be said to be a double-edged sword. To solve this problem, Jinling had already started to make arrangements long ago, which was to go south to the East Sea and west to the Central Plains. Although the East Sea's cultivation world was vast and rich, it was now divided up by the local forces. Although Jinling had consolidated his foothold in the fallen secret land, it would not be easy for him to expand again. Putting aside the fact that Crystal Palace was the dominant force in the East Sea, even large sects like Purple Talisman Pavilion, Gale Thunder Island, and Carefree Pavilion were not easy to deal with. Moreover, Skyrind was increasingly recognized as the new sixth sacred land in the cultivation world. The newly established Luo Xin sect also had a pure yang cultivator, Linyu Laozu, who should not be underestimated. This was especially so for Skyrind and Crystal Palace. With the rise of Skyrind, there would definitely be a fierce battle between the two sections. The entire East Sea could not even be divided among them. At this time, Jinling was on the same side as Skyrind. However, once Skyrind became the new sacred land, the relationship between them would probably have to be redefined. At that time, Jinling, who was an outsider, would more or less become an eyesore. He might even become the target of public criticism. Under such circumstances, Engshanside Courtyard was extremely important to Jinling. If Jinling wanted to protect this bridgehead that was secretly going deep into the Central Plains, other than secretly increasing the strength of the side courtyard, he also had to act as the driving force behind the scenes to maintain the current chaotic state of the Hebei cultivation world, which was without a leader. He had to make preparations to invade the Central Plains in one fell swoop in the future. This was undoubtedly an extremely risky plan. Once Engshanside Courtyard was exposed, not only would the entire Hebei cultivation world immediately unite to resist Jinling's invasion, even the Wuxing School, Supreme Profound Sect, Cloud Sky Pavilion, Hutu Sect, and other sects outside the Hebei cultivation world would definitely unite to repel Jinling's invasion. Even allies like the Heavenly Profound Sect and the Heavenly Moon Sect might turn against each other because of this. That would be like going for wool and coming home shorn. Thus, Engshanside Courtyard could be said to be a risky move by Jinling. Over the past few years, Jinling could be said to be treading on thin ice when it came to secretly managing Engshanside Courtyard. It was already 3 months after he arrived at Engshanside Courtyard. The gains from the pure Yang Thunder Tribulation had clearly far exceeded Lu Ping's expectations. Now, not only had Lu Ping fully recovered from his injuries, he had not gone into closed-door training for the past 3 months, but his cultivation was still rapidly stabilizing. Lu Ping's rapid adaptation to the pure Yang cultivation caused his strength to increase rapidly every moment. The current Engshanside Courtyard had more than doubled in terms of both scale and strength compared to before. Now, among the few powers in the Engshan district, their strength was not weak either. At the very least, Engshanside Courtyard had 3 early Dharma adepts on the surface. Thus, over the past few years, Engshanside Courtyard could be said to have expanded its territory in the northern region of the Hebei cultivation world. Its sphere of influence had rapidly expanded, and the number of disciples in the side courtyard had also increased. Lu Ping could guess that Jinling's expansion in the North Sea had reached its peak. Over the past few years in the East Sea, the few pure Yang adepts of the 5 major sects would not appear unless it was a matter of life and death. Faced with the overt and covert suppression from the various powers in the Central Plains and the East Sea, the 5 major sects had no choice but to adopt a conservative and defensive stance. Thus, the expansion of their own strength was similarly restrained. Under such circumstances, in the past 100 years, Jinling had no choice but to focus part of his energy on the Engshanside Courtyard in the Central Plains. In order to not attract the attention of the various sects in the Central Plains, although Jinling had the intention to expand, he had no choice but to be careful. After more than 100 years of secret planning, he had finally managed to bring half of the Engshan mountain range under the control of the side courtyard. This became an important supplement for Jinling to strengthen his own foundation. Lu Ping's arrival naturally did not alarm anyone in the Engshanside Courtyard. However, when Tian Hui, who was currently in charge of the side courtyard, saw Lu Ping suddenly appear in the restricted area of the side courtyard, she was pleasantly surprised. 100 years had passed, but Tian Hui was still at the early Dharma stage. This was already the second time she had been in charge of the Yingshan side courtyard. When she saw Lu Ping return, she immediately realized something and exclaimed in surprise, "Junior brother, you have already advanced to the pure yang stage. Could it be that the pure yang lightning tribulation that had spread like wildfire in the Yingyu swamp was because of you, junior brother?" Lu Ping smiled and said, "That's right. I am now a pure yang cultivator." Tian Hui hurriedly said seriously, then, "Junior brother, do you have any instructions for coming to the side courtyard this time?" Lu Ping smiled and said, "It's not that I have any instructions. I just want to return to the North Sea." Return to the North Sea? Tian Hui was both surprised and delighted. Didn't junior brother and the other pure yang cultivators not show their faces in the cultivation world? How come now? Lu Ping said, "Don't worry, senior sister. Now, no pure yang cultivator in the cultivation world would dare to provoke me. Moreover, I am not returning to the North Sea with great fanfare. There are some things that I must plan at this time. Although I will not deliberately keep it a secret, there is no need to deliberately reveal my whereabouts." Tian Hui nodded and said, "I understand. When are you leaving, junior brother?" "I'm not in a hurry." Lu Ping waved his hand and said, "Senior sister, tell me about the current situation of our sect. I heard that in the past 100 years, our sect has also suffered some losses." Tian Hui sighed and said, "Uncle Tianlu has reached the end of his lifespan. He passed away a few years ago." Chapter 1471. After Tianlu Laozu passed away, the first generation of Jinling's cultivators was left with only Tianxiang Laozu and Tian Shui Laozu. Among the first generation of Jinling's cultivators, the one who helped Lu Ping the most was Tianlu Laozu. It was because of Laozu's selfless help that Lu Ping was able to complete the continuous improvement of his cultivation and strength while he was still in the core forging stage. Before Jinling's sect was ready to become a large sect, the Fornax ancestor began to gradually fade away from the ranks of the core cultivators of Jinling's sect. It even made people wonder if Jinling's sect was keeping the Fornax ancestor's death a secret. In fact, the Fornax ancestor had put all his energy into the restoration of Tianling Mountain, silently contributing to Jinling's sect. Once he succeeded, he would create a foundation for Jinling's sect for eternity. Counting the first generation of Jinling's cultivators, there were 6 Laozu. After Tiankong Laozu advanced to the mid-Dharma stage, he fought for Jinling's vanguard. Even when his lifespan was exhausted and he passed away, he passed on his Dharma soul to his descendants. In order to build Jinling's treasured ship, Tianjiang Laozu worked day and night. When the treasured ship set sail, he was already at the end of his rope. It was the same for Tianlu Laozu. Tian Shui and Tian Fan Laozu were the strongest barriers for Jinling's rise. Until Tian Fan Laozu fell in the Central Plains, Tian Shui Laozu originally had the will to die, but because Jinling had faced many difficulties, he had no choice but to stay in the world. As for Tianxiang Laozu, needless to say, the reason why Jinling could prosper today could be said that Tianxiang Laozu was the true spiritual pillar of Jinling and the driving force behind the scenes. Lu Ping once asked himself, he was like the sun in the sky in Jinling, and even in the entire cultivation world. However, did he treat his own sect wholeheartedly like the 6 first-generation Laozu? Indeed, Lu Ping's contribution to Jinling was unquestionable. In terms of contribution, Lu Ping dared to say that no one in the entire sect could surpass him. However, the size of one's contribution was not only determined by one's loyalty to the sect, but also the level of a cultivator's ability. Most of Lu Ping's contribution was determined by the latter. Lu Ping asked himself if he was like Tianjiang and Tianlu Laozu, who were willing to give up everything for the rest of their lives for the sake of their beliefs, or even their lives for the sake of the sect. He might not be able to do it. If it was Tian Shui Laozu or Tianxiang Laozu, Lu Ping did not doubt that the two of them would definitely be able to do it. This was the true difference between him and the 6 Laozu. In Yingshan Courtyard, he recorded everything he had seen and heard about the various forces in Hebei's cultivation world for Tian Hui and the rest to refer to. Although the 4 of them had already made many guesses about Lu Ping's true harvest in the 9 mystical tower, There was no lack of optimistic guesses that all of the inheritance of the Nine Mystical Tower was in Lu Ping's hands. But when Lu Ping really took out all of the harvest from the Nine Mystical Tower, the four Laozu were indescribably excited. The Nine Mystical Tower's complete inheritance of the past generations, a large amount of extremely high-quality cultivation resources, and several rare treasures. With these things in hand, Jinling could try to establish a foundation for a Holy Land sect. When Lu Ping took out the Nine Dragon Bell and told Jinling that he had truly obtained the true spirit inheritance of the Nine Mystical Tower, the four great adepts couldn't help but cry out in excitement. Even though they had already thought highly of Lu Ping, when Lu Ping really appeared according to their expectations, the four great adepts found it hard to believe. Jinling was a large sect that had been established for less than 200 years. How could he suddenly covet the qualifications to become a Holy Land sect? In the end, Celestial Phenomenon Laozu's temperament was a level higher than everyone else's, and he was the first to recover from this strange atmosphere. He coughed softly and asked, "Boy Lu, do you have anything to say about this true spirit inheritance? What rules does the Nine Mystical Tower have for it? Tell us first." Lu Ping sighed inwardly. Celestial Phenomenon Laozu's eyes were as sharp as a torch. He was able to detect the crux of the true spirit inheritance from just a few words. If this was not handled well, it could really be the root of the sect's destruction. Eighth Sister Zhu of the Nine Mystical Tower, Heaven Splitter, Profound Sky, and the other large sect's founders were no exception. After Lu Ping explained the rules and the pros and cons to the four great adepts, the four of them inevitably fell into silence. In every generation, only one person had the qualifications to become a true spirit and enter the Minor Thousand World. This rule was inevitably unfair to other cultivators. Even for Jinling, which of the four great adepts present didn't have the intention to become a true spirit? But now that Jinling had Lu Ping, it meant that if Jinling really had the qualifications, then at least the four great adepts present, regardless of whether it was possible or not, had already lost the chance to become a true spirit. This was because none of them would compete with Lu Ping. They didn't have the qualifications to compete, and they couldn't win. Not only did they not have the qualifications to compete, even the fourth or fifth generation of cultivators might not even have the qualifications to inherit the true spirit inheritance after Lu Ping. It had to be known that Lu Ping had only cultivated for 400 years. Once he became a true spirit, Lu Ping would have at least 1,300 to 500 years of lifespan. If he hid in the Minor Thousand World and didn't come out, it would be enough to exhaust 2 generations of Jinling. At this time, Lu Ping could only remain silent. He knew this rule was a bit cruel to the pure yang cultivators who also had the potential to become true spirit realm cultivators. But from the perspective of the sect's long-term heritage, it was undeniable. After all, if the entire sect focused their power to promote one true spirit realm cultivator, it would be a virtuous cycle for the sect. But if they promoted 2 true spirit realm cultivators at the same time, it would consume the sect's vitality. For the sake of the sect's development, they could only make this choice. Seeing that the atmosphere was becoming more and more depressing, Heavenly Phenomenon Laozu couldn't help but chuckle. Seeing that everyone was looking at him in surprise, Heavenly Phenomenon Laozu said, "Whether or not our sect can have an unbroken true spirit inheritance, like the 6 great holy lands, no longer depends on the inheritance itself, but on the Minor Thousand World. According to the inheritance of the 9 Profound Tower, it will take at least 1,000 years for our sect's best treasure, the Abundant Void Treasure Mirror, to condense the 9th treasure restriction, and then accumulate the foundation to summon the Lightning Tribulation. After 1,000 years, not only will our lifespans be exhausted, even little Lu himself will not be able to wait to become a true spirit and go to the northern ice plains. Moreover, the possibility of creating a Minor Thousand World by himself is much lower than the possibility of creating a spirit treasure. It's laughable that his mind has been disturbed by a true spirit inheritance." Everyone felt ashamed for a moment. After all, the temptation of becoming a true spirit was great. Even Jiang Tianlin, Mei Tianqin, and the others found it difficult to control themselves. At the same time, they were wary of Lu Ping's story about the division of the sect. In fact, this was also Heavenly Phenomenon Laozu's goal. As for the matter of a minor thousand world, Jinling naturally wouldn't take it seriously and condense a minor thousand world. It was almost impossible. Since everyone has enough understanding of this true spirit inheritance, we should now speed up the pace of planning for the 7 Stars Grotto Heaven. Otherwise, when little Lu becomes a true spirit, we won't have a minor thousand world to reside in. Wouldn't our sect suffer a great loss? Heavenly phenomenon Laozu's words made everyone smile, and they all focused their attention on the 7 Stars Grotto Heaven. Although the 7 Stars Grotto Heaven was called a Grotto Heaven, it was actually a genuine minor thousand world. 5 of the 7 great divinities who created the 7 Stars Grotto Heaven were true spirits Laozu, and the remaining 2 were pure young cultivators. The rare treasures they collected still benefited the cultivators of the various sects in the North Sea. Lu Ping had gained a lot in the 7 Stars Grotto Heaven back then. His amethyst wasp Dao soldier and protective magic power, as well as the mysterious myriad poison source liquid, all came from there. Now, it's not just our sect that wants to plot for the 7 Stars Grotto Heaven. The Yuan family and the Lu family from the Middle Earth have both been found to have sent cultivators to the sea where the 7 Stars Grotto Heaven has appeared. Chapter 1472. After paying respects to Fornax Laozu, who had passed away in meditation in the true spirit Grotto Heaven, Lu Ping returned to Huangli Island. Skyfox was already waiting for him on the island. Although the area of Huangli Island had not increased at all, and it was still a level lower than a medium-sized island, the island was almost the most prosperous in the North Sea. Especially decades ago, when the North Sea demon tribe attacked Jinling with a beast tide, they were defeated by Jinling and were forced to sign an alliance with Jinling. The demon tribe began to trade with the human race, but the location was not in the Shanghai demon tribe, but Huangli Island. Many rare treasures produced by the deep-sea demon tribe were bought by Jinling at a low price every year, and the rest were sold or traded at a normal price on Huangli Island. At first, the demon tribe was only forced to trade for the New Year's coins after their defeat. Later, the demon tribe quickly traded with each other and gained many benefits. Later, more and more demon tribe cultivators swarmed into Huangli Island before and after the trade. Later, there would be demon tribe cultivators going to Huangli Island to trade. Even the North Sea demon tribe was not limited to the East Sea demon tribe. The East Sea demon tribe gradually appeared in the North Sea, especially the green sea snakes. Because of their good relationship with Lu Ping, the cooperation between the two sides was very pleasant. Before Lu Ping went to the Central Plains to plan the 9 Mysteries Tower, Lu Ping sent Samling back to the East Sea to receive the full inheritance of the green sea snakes. With Lu Ping's current status and power in the cultivation world, Lu Ping was qualified to be Samling's follower. He was not afraid that the green sea snakes would not let him go. After the incident at the 9 Mysteries Tower, Lu Ping's status in the cultivation world rose to a higher level. Now that he had successfully advanced to the pure young stage, the green sea snakes naturally had no reason to reject Samling as their follower. The monster race began to make peaceful contact with the human race, but because of the North Sea Water Sword Immortal's reputation, neither the monster race nor the human race cultivators from other cultivation worlds dared to challenge the Sword Immortal's authority here. Due to the fact that the cooperation between humans and demons on Huangli Island had been going smoothly for the past few decades, the influence and scale of this trade had grown larger and larger. Not only had it attracted the attention of the entire North Sea, but many cultivators from the Middle Earth and East Sea had also come. On the other hand, the Yao race had also felt the sincerity of the human race through several transactions. Additionally, the Yao race cultivators on Huangli Island would often feel a sense of familiarity. That was because many of the current rulers of Huangli Island were Yao race cultivators. For example, Lu Daguay, who possessed the bloodline of the tyrannical tortoise, was now leading the Wooling Fish Taoist soldiers of Huangli Island after condensing his Dharma form. He was in charge of the safety of the sea around Huangli Island. Every day, he would swim quickly in the sea and maintain the order of the demon cultivators who came ashore. Lu Xiaohai, who was born in the Hanging Eyes White-Fronted Tiger clan and had also condensed his Dharma form, was in charge of the security of Huangli Island. Usually, He patrolled the island with the Zhenling sect cultivators and settled disputes. Lu Xiaohai was born in a noble family. He was a descendant of Taoist who from the white-fronted tiger tribe. Lu Xiaohai had always been fair and generous. Coupled with his innate bloodline suppression, many overseas demon cultivators who came to Huangli Island because of his fame were quite obedient and respectful to him. Lu Qiner was originally above Lu Xiaohai. But now that Lu Qiner and Luan Yu were together on Failing Island, the position of Huangli Island's security commander was taken over by Lu Xiaohai. Lu Debao, the head shopkeeper of the Thieving Sky Pavilion, was famous in the North Sea cultivation world. He controlled the largest auction house on Huangli Island. At the same time, the Thieving Sky Pavilion was involved in about one-third of the trading places on Huangli Island. It was because of the help of Lu Ping's spiritual pets and followers that the Zhenling side was naturally happy to trust them. The demon tribe's hostility towards Zhenling was also reduced. Therefore, the scale of Huangli Island's human and demon exchanges became bigger and more famous. As the host, Zhenling's benefits were naturally envied by the entire cultivation world. Lu Ping and Sky Fox walked freely on Huangli Island. Among the passers-by, there were many Dharma stage cultivators, but they never noticed Lu Ping and Sky Fox. This Huangli Island is still a little small. With how prosperous it is now, the scale of Huangli Island should continue to expand. This way, it can gather more cultivation resources for the sect. Sky Fox smiled and said, I've already found a few deserted islands in the nearby seas. But now that Huangli Island is prosperous, some of the deserted islands around it have become a place for many cultivators to stay. Among them, there are some forces that have formed groups or loose practitioners. I'm afraid there will be some disputes, and it will take some time to negotiate. Lu Ping laughed heartily and said, after casting a series of spells, the surrounding islands were instantly transformed, almost comparable to the heaven and earth. Ordinary rogue cultivators and forces would be scared to death, so who would dare to come here to fight? Even if there are those with ulterior motives, this is even more of a deterrent to them. Who dares to oppose us? Who dares to oppose us? Who dares to oppose us? You can just set a deadline and move. If you are compassionate, you only need to leave a few means of compensation. As for whether they are satisfied or not, there is no need to think too much about it. Lu Ping looked at Sky Fox and teased. Although you have condensed Dharma power, you still have the heart of a weak core forging adept. Dharma stage cultivators are the giants of this world. They have the power to decide life and death. Why do you need to consider the feelings of unrelated people? Sky Fox heard this and immediately rolled his eyes at Lu Ping. He said, Lu Tianping Laozu, you are so powerful. Now that you are famous, you naturally do not need to consider the feelings of others. Even when you are traveling in Central Plains, you have beautiful women to accompany you and be praised by the world. Lu Ping was stunned. He smiled awkwardly and said, Qi Lianying's life is pitiful. I did not expect there to be such a storm. Seeing that Sky Fox was still jealous, Lu Ping told Sky Fox about Qi Lianying's life. Unexpectedly, when Sky Fox found out that Qi Lianying was actually his fifth senior sister, Zhang Tianying, the daughter of the sect leader Lu Tianling and Zhang Tianlin, her expression became even more worried. Lu Ping was greatly surprised. He didn't know why, but after asking again and again, the Sky Fox finally said, She's your teacher's daughter. Once she reveals her identity, she will definitely rise rapidly in the sect. No wonder I can't compare to her. Only then did Lu Ping come to a realization. He then joked, Huh? You actually call yourself a little girl? That is strange. Could it be that there is someone else with whom I have slept with countless times before? But then again, now that you have successfully condensed Dharma power, it is time for you to have a child. Sky Fox was embarrassed. She pushed Lu Ping and said, You are courting death. How can you say such things in public? Huangli Island was bustling, but at this moment, who could notice that the owner of Huangli Island was among them? Lu Ping teased, So this cannot be said in public. Then, let us find a place where we can say such things. Sky Fox really could not stay here anymore. She turned around and used her space divine power to return to the cave abode, leaving only Lu Ping there. Lu Ping chuckled and took 2 steps forward. Unbeknownst to him, he had already disappeared from sight. Although Lu Ping did not deliberately reveal his whereabouts, his appearance in the North Sea still attracted the attention of many people. At this time, Lu Ping's public appearance in the cultivation world had obviously shocked many people. However, what was even more surprising was that after Lu Ping's public appearance, the expected scene of the cultivation world's major sects joining forces to encircle and annihilate him did not happen. Moreover, Lu Ping's appearance seemed to prove that Jinling seemed to be planning something. Lu Ping's public appearance in the cultivation world had obviously caused many people to misunderstand. As the news spread, it even caused a few other pure young Laozu, who were still hiding in the cultivation world, to misjudge. Not long after the news of Lu Ping's appearance in the North Sea, Shihua Laozu was discovered appearing in the land of Hushi. Immediately, Ziyang Palace, Wuxing School, and Lingyun Valley sent 6 pure yang cultivators to the land of Hushi to encircle and annihilate him. Shihua Laozu died after a bitter battle, shocking the entire cultivation world. Immediately after that, Full Moon Laozu also exposed himself when he secretly contacted the Heavenly Moon sect cultivators. Immediately, he was encircled and annihilated by the pure yang cultivators from Wuxing School, Lingyun Valley, and Skyward Pavilion. Fortunately, with the help of Qi Fan Laozu, Full Moon Laozu was seriously injured and escaped. However, in this battle, when Qi Fan Laozu rescued Full Moon Laozu, he took out the 9 Profound Towers heaven-opening artifact, the 7 Feather Fan, and heavily injured the pure yang Laozu of Skyward Pavilion and Lingyun Valley in one fell swoop, shocking the entire cultivation world once again. However, when the news reached the North Sea, Lu Tianping continued to do as he pleased. In Huangli Island, he used the Blue Sea Mulberry Fields technique and absorbed 5 barren islands into Huangli Island in one short month, making Huangli Island the 50th medium-sized island under Jinling's jurisdiction. Under such circumstances, a rumor suddenly spread in the cultivation world. The reason why Lu Tianping of the North Sea was not encircled and annihilated by the pure yang cultivators of the Holy Lands was because Lu Tianping had surrendered to the 5 Holy Lands and revealed the whereabouts of Shihua Laozu, Full Moon Laozu, and the others. This rumor spread so widely that when Jinling went out to travel, the cultivators of Heavenly Xian and Heavenly Moon were not as cordial to the cultivators of Jinling as before. When Skyfox found Lu Ping, it was in a newly opened secret land in the central area of Huangli Island. This secret land was deep under Huangli Island. It was specially opened after Lu Ping achieved Pure Yang and returned to the North Sea. No one on Huangli Island knew about this secret land. When the secret land was opened, only Skyfox and Deng Tianming, the Formation Great Master who participated in the opening of the secret land, knew about it. After the secret land was opened, Jinling's core, Laozu, such as Tianxiang, Zhang Tianlin, Mei Tianqin, Gua Tianshan, Chu Tianqing, and several others came to this place. This showed the importance that Jinling attached to this secret land. After Skyfox lost track of Lu Ping on Huangli Island, he guessed that he should be in this secret land at this time. When Lu Ping saw Skyfox coming, he could not help but reprimand, "You are pregnant now, you should rest well." Skyfox touched his protruding abdomen. A gentle look flashed across his face, and he said, "Xuanqi and the others have returned from their travels in the Central Plains. Now they have arrived on the island and want to see you urgently. It seems that there is an urgent matter." Lu Ping smiled and said, "They're too impatient. What urgent matter could they possibly have? It's just a few rumors, but they've caused such a commotion. Rumors will stop at the mouth of the wise. I wanted them to suppress their cultivation base and go out to explore the world because I wanted to temper their temperament before entering the Avatar realm. But I didn't expect them to be so far away." Chapter 1473. Above an unknown part of the North Sea, Yuan Feixiang bowed to the old man in front of her and said, "Third grandfather, will Lu Tianping's return to the North Sea affect our plans?" Yuan Feixiang turned around, and a pair of cold eyes shone in the dark night. He said coldly, "Of course there will be an impact. Lu Tianping was able to kill pure yang adepts when he was only at the late Dharma stage. Now that he has advanced to the pure yang stage, his abilities have naturally increased by another level. Now that he dares to openly return to the North Sea, it proves that he has absolute confidence in his own abilities. Until now, the pure young adepts of the 5 Holy Lands have not joined forces to encircle and kill Lu Tianping. His abilities are the best proof of his abilities. Yuan Feixiang smiled and said, speaking of this, the entire world of practitioners is now saying that the reason why Lu Tianping dared to appear so brazenly in the North Sea was because Lu Tianping had secretly compromised with the 5 Holy Lands and leaked information about the other pure young adepts. This caused Shihua Laozu to be killed and Manuel Laozu to be almost killed. This matter has spread like wildfire in the world of practitioners, and I'm afraid that the alliance of the 5 main sects will be affected by this. Yuan Feixiang glanced at Yuan Feixiang, who was gloating at the misfortune of others, and said, "You believe this?" Yuan Feixiang was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and said, "I don't really believe it, but I heard that the disciples of the other sects of the 5 main sects are now not friendly to the Jinling adepts." Yuan Feixiang asked again, "Are there any Dharma adepts involved?" Yuan Feixiang was stunned again and said, "No." "You understand now," Yuan Tongtian continued. "The Dharma adepts of the 5 great sects are all very rational. Perhaps they have already guessed that these rumors are false, or perhaps they have already received instructions from their own pure young Laozu. Without the participation of the Dharma adepts, the alliance of the 5 great sects will not be harmed." Yuan Feixiang was confused. But it will still be a hidden danger for the alliance. When the 4th and 5th generation cultivators who have conflicts with Jinling grow up to be the leaders of their respective sects, will the 5 sects still be as close as they are today? Fool! Yuan Tongtian reprimanded her mercilessly. Yuan Feixiang's face turned red. Then, she heard Yuan Tongtian continue, "The so-called alliance is just because we each have our own needs. In the end, in the cultivation world, what matters is one's own strength. From the day the alliance of the 5 great sects was established, it was destined to be dissolved one day. The high-level cultivators of both sides know this. In that case, why should we waste our energy on a few rumors?" Yuan Feixiang did not understand. Then what is the purpose of the person who spread these rumors? Yuan Tongtian's face was full of sarcasm as he said, "Wuxing School's methods are getting more and more despicable. They only want to sow discord and reap the benefits of others' hard work." Wuxing School again? Yuan Feixiang's face was full of disgust as she said, "Yes, Lu Tianping was crossing the Pure Yang Thunder Tribulation in Inyu Swamp, which is the closest place to Wuxing School. With such a big movement, the people of Wuxing School should have been the first to feel it. But in the end, there was no news. Now it seems that it's not that the people of Wuxing School didn't go, but that they didn't get any benefits, so they resorted to such underhanded methods." Speaking of this, Yuan Feixiang thought of something and said, "In that case, the reason why no one from the 5 Holy Lands has been looking for Lu Tianping is probably because they got the news from Wuxing School. Could it be that Lu Tianping's strength made the 5 great sects fear him? Is that why Lu Tianping dared to show up in the cultivation world in public?" Yuan Feixiang's speculation surprised even Yuan Feixiang. Then, her eyes flickered, and no one knew what she was thinking. Yuan Feixiang's expression did not escape Yuan Feixiang's eyes. Yuan Feixiang said carefully, "Third grandfather, although the family has been paying attention to the 7-star cave heaven, is it also because of Wuxing School that they suddenly entered the North Sea?" Yuan Feixiang hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, "Indeed. Although the family has long been suspicious about whether the 7-star cave heaven is a spirit space, and we even specially sent you to the North Sea to investigate, the 7-star cave heaven is hidden in the void, and it is the work of 7 great mediums. It is very difficult to get it. It is also said that behind the 7 great mediums, there seems to be the 7th patriarch, who opened up the sky. Therefore, they did not dare to do anything. Now, with the help of Wuxing School, they have returned to the North Sea." Yuan Feixiang said, "Wuxing School is harboring evil intentions. They want the family to fight against Jinling. Wuxing School is openly plotting. Even if we know about it, what can we do? Although the Yuan family is known as the top family in the world, we can never have a spirit space. Without a spirit space, the Yuan family will never be able to break the destiny of opening up the sky and become a place that is truly on par with the Holy Land. or even far surpassing the Holy Land. This is also the reason why I, your grandfather, have been supporting you to find a spirit space all these years. It's a pity that Xiao Baiyu and the others outside the 9 mystical tower succeeded too quickly. That person's position is obviously not high, and there are always people within the family holding him back. Otherwise, with that person acting as a spy, everything that Xiao Baiyu and the others have planned may have become a wedding dress for the Yuan family. Yuan Tongtian shook his head and said, "Don't underestimate people like Xiao Baiyu, Qi Fan, and Feng Lu. Whether it is intelligence or strength, they are the top group of people in this world. If they could gather more than 10 pure yang-level cultivators to plot against the 9 mystical tower, I'm afraid that they have already secretly prepared for any unexpected situations." The old man originally wanted to go to the 9 mystical tower with the best outcome, but even if it doesn't, it's still within his expectations. Yuan Feixiang said, "Third grandfather, has that person recently sent any news about Xiao Baiyu, Lu Tianping, and the others? Especially that Lu Tianping. I have a feeling that Lu Tianping has returned to the North Sea this time with some shocking plan. Perhaps he has come for the 7-star grotto heaven. Should we let that person go and find out what's going on?" After the 9 mystical tower incident, these people have already gone their separate ways and no longer have any contact with each other. Firstly, it is to avoid implicating each other when the 5 holy lands join forces to take revenge. Secondly, I'm afraid that these people have been hostile to each other for a long time, and they can no longer trust each other. Even that person rarely knows about the others. Yuan Tongtian smiled and said, "Lu Tianping has inherited the immortal spirit. He is the most outstanding person in this world, and the possibility of him achieving the immortal spirit is very high. Moreover, time is also very fast. If we don't want to leave this world so quickly, then the most important thing is naturally to find a minor kiliocosm to live in. Therefore, the battle between our Yuan family and Zhenling for the 7-star grotto heaven is already unavoidable." On Huangli Island, the Skyfox saw the strange formation set up in the secret ground and the few formation tools around it. She said in disbelief, "For the 7-star grotto heaven, we have to use so many spiritual treasures and precious weapons?" Lu Ping smiled and said, "If we really have the confidence to obtain the 7-star grotto heaven, let alone the 3 treasures of the vast sea and the magic treasure pill furnace. So what if we have pure yang spiritual treasures?" The Skyfox said in shock, "Could it be that even so, we might not be able to obtain the 7-star grotto heaven?" Lu Ping shook his head and said, "I don't know. The 7-star grotto heaven has appeared in the North Sea for a long time. In the past, there were people who tried to obtain this grotto heaven world, but they could not enter it. They could only wait passively for it to open on its own once every 100 years. Now, although our sect has analyzed the legends left behind over the generations, the inheritance of Fei Ling Island, and the inheritance of the Vast Sea sect, especially the conclusion that the Vast Sea sect once determined that the Vast Sea Laozu was the only person who grasped the method to enter and leave the 7-star grotto heaven freely, and came to this conclusion, even I am not confident that we can really keep the 7-star grotto heaven on Huangli Island. Is it because the Yuan family has appeared in the North Sea recently?" the Skyfox asked after thinking for a while. Lu Ping nodded and said, "The Yuan family is indeed troublesome. No one knows what secrets the number 1 family of the heaven-splitting family has grasped. That is the most frightening thing." Lu Ping paused for a while and continued, "Recently, there has been news from the Middle Earth that another pure yang cultivator from the Yuan family has arrived in the East Sea. I'm afraid he will appear in the North Sea in the next few days. In addition to Yuan Tongtian, Yuan Feixiang, and a few other great cultivators in the North Sea, even if our sect is the local tyrant, it will not be easy for us to stop the Yuan family from robbing us." Lu Ping returned to his cave abode, where Wang Xuanqi and Du Xinluo were already waiting. After meeting Lu Ping, the two of them reported to Lu Ping about their journey in the Middle Earth. In the end, the two of them seemed to want to report something to Lu Ping, but Lu Ping raised his hand and stopped them. He asked, "How many people did the two of you fight with in total during your journey in the Middle Earth?" Wang Xuanqi said, "I fought with the 4th-generation cultivators of the Heavenly Xian sect 17 times. I won 15 times and lost 2 times. I fought with the fourth-generation cultivators of the Heavenly Moon sect 9 times, and won all of them. Du Xianluo said, I am not as good as eldest senior brother. I fought with the fourth-generation cultivators of the Heavenly Xian sect 12 times, and won 7 times, drew 4 times, and lost 1. I fought with the cultivators of the same generation from the Heavenly Moon sect 9 times, and won 5 times, and drew 4 times. Wang Xuanqi smiled and said, I am not as kind as you. Once I fight with someone, I always lose if I don't win. Although the Heavenly Moon sect has many female cultivators, it is difficult for them to hold back. Du Xianluo laughed and said, Senior brother's swordsmanship is sharp. In the end, the fourth-generation cultivators of the Heavenly Xian sect actually sent a fourth-generation cultivator who had advanced to the Dharma stage to fight in order to save face. Otherwise, you would still have won all of your battles in the Heavenly Xian sect. When Lu Ping heard this, he frowned and asked, Why? Did the Dharma adepts of the Heavenly Xian sect also fight? Wang Xuanqi did not dare to hide anything and said, Because someone in the Heavenly Xian sect talked about you, I was angry and went a little too hard during the fight, seriously injuring 2 of them. That was why the fourth-generation direct disciples who had advanced to the Dharma stage came to fight. I lost twice in a row and embarrassed you, master. When Lu Ping heard this, his brows relaxed, but he still said sternly, Now that the fourth-generation direct disciples of the 5 Holy Lands have started to condense their Dharma power, and even the older large sects like the Heavenly Xian sect have started to have their fourth-generation disciples condense their Dharma power, the 2 of you should have accumulated enough. However, do you know why I made the 2 of you repeatedly suppress your cultivation level, and did not even let the 2 of you condense a third type of heaven and earth spirit to form a golden elixir, and instead went out to train? Without waiting for the 2 of them to answer, Lu Ping continued, You are hot-tempered and only know how to fight. You don't know how to judge the situation. How can the 2 of you inherit the legacy of the Hearing Wave Manor in the future? When Wang Xuanqi and Du Xianluo saw that Lu Ping was angry, they could not help but keep quiet out of fear. At this moment, Lu Ping, who was sitting at the head of the table, suddenly stopped talking. Wang Xuanqi and Du Xianluo carefully raised their heads to look at Lu Ping, but saw that their teacher was also frowning, as if he did not understand what was going on. They could not help but feel puzzled. At this moment, Lu Ping said, Xuanqi, Xianluo, the 2 of you go to Huangli Island and welcome Senior Lin Yu on behalf of Master. Chapter 1474. Lu Xiaoyu. I'm here to seek your protection. Lin Yu Laozu expressed his purpose to Lu Ping the moment he met Lu Ping. Lu Ping didn't expect Lin Yu Laozu to be like this. He was startled for a moment before he smiled and said, Senior, you must be joking. Since you're here on Huangli Island, you're my guest. Please have a rest in your cave abode. Both parties sat down. Lin Yu Laozu looked at Lu Ping's Tingtao cave abode and praised, Little friend, this is a good place to run. This cave abode is simple but elegant. There's no lack of incense in this cave abode. Isn't it the most precious of the 3 great incense in the cultivation world? Both of them exchanged greetings before Ancestor Lin Yu pondered deeply for a moment before he said, May I ask young brother Lu if young brother Lu had encountered the members of the 5-element sect at the Brimjade Swamp earlier? These things could be easily guessed in the eyes of those who paid attention. Lu Ping didn't hide it and nodded, yes? Lin Yu Laozu's spirit was lifted, and he immediately asked, Who? Lu Ping asked back, Senior, do you know that there's a Laozu called Wu Guangyuan in Wuxing School? Wu Guangyuan? Lin Yu Laozu was shocked. Then, as if he thought of something, he asked in surprise, Guang Laozu? Wuxing School's current true spirit cultivator Laozu Wu Guangyuan? Little friend, you actually met this person. How? How did he come out of the formless cave abode? This is too unbelievable. Little friend, you actually... Lu Ping knew why Lin Yu Laozu was shocked, so he quickly explained, Senior, you misunderstood. The Guangyuan Laozu I met was not his real body. It should be a puppet at the peak of pure Yang realm. Lu Ping's explanation made Lin Yu Laozu, who seemed a little confused, calm down a little. He smiled awkwardly and said, The old man is being rude. Lu Xiaoyu, please don't laugh at me. At this moment, The old man really can't believe it. Even if Guangyuan Laozu did not come with his real body, he used his real soul to control the puppet at the peak of pure Yang realm. I'm afraid that even fellow Taoist Xiao may not be able to take advantage of him. I didn't expect you to be able to escape unscathed. This kind of strength really makes the old man admire you. Lu Ping repeatedly said that he did not dare, but he heard Lin Yu Laozu say, "Little friend, please don't decline." The old man said that he was asking for little friend's protection. Little friend, you have the strength to make Guangyuan Laozu helpless. No wonder you dared to show yourself in the North Sea. The old man is also being pressured by the pure Yang realm of those holy lands. Without absolute strength like Xiao Baiyu and Little Friend, who can ignore the pure Yang realm of the various sects, and without fellow Taoist Qi Fan, Full Moon, and Feng Lu, I have no choice but to seek Little Friend's protection. Every 3 days, Tianling Mountain will definitely send a cultivator to bring Senior enough spiritual stones. At that time, Senior only needs to use your pure Yang cultivation to maintain the island's great formation under the command of our sect's formation grandmaster. There's no need to worry about anything else. Lin Yu Laozu understood the meaning of Lu Ping's words. Lu Ping just wanted to use his cultivation to maintain the operation of the formation. As for why the formation was operating and what its purpose was, Lin Yu Laozu naturally had no way of knowing, so it would not affect Jinling's plan. Even if Lu Ping had said before that Lu Ping was even willing to postpone this for 100 years for the distribution of the huge spiritual stone vein in the Phantom 5 Islands, it meant that although this matter was important, it was not urgent. Even if Lin Yu Laozu accidentally destroyed the formation on the island, Jinling would just build another one at most, and it would not cause any substantial harm. However, whether it was Lin Yu Laozu or Lu Ping, they both seemed to have forgotten that the formation on the island might not affect Jinling's plan. But if someone obtained what Jinling wanted in advance, it would be useless no matter how well the island's formation was preserved. After settling Lin Yu Laozu, Lu Ping went straight back to Tianling Mountain and was about to use the teleportation formation to return to Huangli Island, but he saw Lu Tianyuan chasing after him from afar. Lu Ping knew that he must have something urgent to do, so he turned around to greet him. Lu Tianyuan had been working with Lu Tianling, the sect master, and had already been tacitly accepted by Jinling as the next sect master. Although there were many outstanding disciples in Jinling's third generation, Lu Ping was now the pure Yang Laozu. Yin Tianchu was gloomy, Ji Tianxian was mischievous, Yao Yong was irascible, Du Feng and Tian Shang were cold and unsociable, Tian Ling lacked wisdom, and although Tian Ru and Tian Hui had sufficient status and wisdom, it was difficult for them to convince the masses due to their limited cultivation and aptitude. Originally, the sect master of Jinling had placed all their hopes on Tian Tian, but unfortunately, Tian Tian died young. So Lu Tianling and the other high-ranking Laozu set their sights on the mature and steady Lu Tianyuan and Qi Tiankai. However, although Qi Tiankai was quite capable, she didn't have the connections and prestige Lu Tianyuan had in the sect. Most importantly, not only did Lu Tianyuan have the support of Gua Tianshan's faction, but he also maintained a good relationship with the cultivators from Chonghua Manor, which Lu Ping belonged to. Only by having Lu Tianyuan take over the position of sect master could everyone in Jinling live up to their expectations. Junior brother Lu, Flowing Cloud Pavilion of Heartlands, has sent a cultivator to visit the sect. Flowing Cloud Pavilion? Lu Ping said in surprise, the Cloud Sky Pavilion that the new pure Yang cultivator of Heartlands, Yuntian Laozu, belongs to? Why did they send someone here? Yuntian Laozu had quite a grudge with me in the past. Now that they've sent someone here, are they declaring war or making amends? It's making amends. Lu Tianyuan also had a strange expression on his face as he said, the cultivators from Flowing Cloud Pavilion have brought a large number of rare treasures. Apart from expressing their intention to make amends with the sect, they've also come to represent Yuntian Laozu to apologize to you, junior brother. Apologize to me? Lu Ping didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Who is this person? How is he qualified to apologize on Yuntian's behalf? Senior brother, what do you think? What does teacher think? Lu Tianyuan said, this person is called Qian Changming. He's the first direct disciple of the third generation of Flowing Cloud Pavilion. He's quite famous in the Heartlands. Uncle Sect Master seems to be moved, but it'll still depend on Junior Brother's opinion. In my opinion, this Flowing Cloud Pavilion truly wants to make amends with our sect. Apologizing to Junior Brother is probably something he came up with on the spur of the moment. Lu Ping suddenly smiled and said, "So it's him. This person is quite courageous to actually dare to represent Yuntian on his own. However, the relationship between sects is only about benefits. If it's beneficial to the sect, even I, a pure young cultivator, can't sacrifice the benefits of the sect for my own selfishness." This Qian Shaming probably thinks that all matters of the sect are decided by a pure young cultivator like me. That's why he wants to take a different path and come to our sect. Lu Tianyuan praised, "Junior Brother is very righteous. You've never been greedy for the power of the sect. However, Yuntian might not be as generous to the Flowing Cloud Pavilion as Junior Brother. It seems that all matters of the Flowing Cloud Pavilion are decided by Yuntian Laozu. The Flowing Cloud Pavilion is probably Yuntian Laozu's Flowing Cloud Pavilion alone. Qin Changming's actions are understandable." Lu Ping nodded. "If that's the case, then Qin Changming won't be here. Senior Brother can assist the sect master with the matters of the Flowing Cloud Pavilion. The Flowing Cloud Pavilion is far away in the Heartlands and has no conflicts of interest with our sect. If the two sects work together, then there's no harm in working together. As for the grievances between me and Yuntian Laozu, the sect doesn't need to worry about it." Lu Tianyuan understood Lu Ping's attitude and turned to go to the Heaven's Spirit Hall. Lu Ping thought for a while and decided not to return to Huangli Island. Instead, he turned and went to the back of Tianling Mountain. In the forbidden area of the back of Tianling Mountain, Jinling had built a secret teleportation portal. This teleportation portal led directly to Feiling Island, which was submerged in the sea. In the whole of Jinling, only Dharma adepts were qualified to know about the existence of this teleportation portal. Chu Tianqing was in charge of the affairs of Feiling Island. When he saw Lu Ping, he couldn't help but ask curiously, Marshal Nephew, aren't you preparing to go to the East Sea? Why are you here?" Lu Ping said, "I'm here to see Junior Brother Ian." Chapter 1475. After the North Sea monsters had launched a beast tide and a great practitioner of the primordial crocodile clan had been killed by Yin Tianchu and Ji Tianxian, Yin Tianchu had come to Fei Ling Island to train in seclusion in preparation for his advancement to the late Dharma stage. However, Yin Tianchu, who had come before Lu Ping, was actually already a late Dharma practitioner. It was just that no one in Zhenling knew that there was another great practitioner in their sect. "Your training has not stabilized yet. It seems that you have just undergone the third thunder trial not long ago," Lu Ping said to Yin Tianchu with a smile. "Do you want me to go to the East Sea with you?" Yin Tianchu asked. Lu Ping shook his head. "No, I want you to stay in the North Sea and keep an eye on someone." They toured around Feiling Island. Under Jinling's full management and the efforts of more than 10 wooden wands, Feiling Island now looked like an immortal paradise. As Jinling's strength continued to increase, Tianling Mountain had become a little too small for the current Jinling. At this time, Jinling's demand for lifting the seal on Feiling Island and merging Feiling Island with Tianling Island was getting louder and louder. Jinling's plan for Feiling Island had to be brought forward. Fortunately, Lu Ping's level of training had increased quickly enough. Although the plan had been brought forward, everything was still within the control of Lu Ping and the other great practitioners of Jinling. In order not to cause too much damage to Feiling Island and the ley lines, Jinling's lifting of the seal on Feiling Island was a gradual process. Although it took a little more time, the damage to the ley lines and the ley lines of Feiling Island was minimized during the process. After staying on Feiling Island for a few days, Lu Ping gave lectures to a few of Jinling's fourth-generation practitioners. Then, he arranged for Wang Xuanqi and Du Xinluo to train in seclusion here in preparation for breaking through to the Dharma stage. Only then did he leave Feiling Island and return to Tianling Mountain. The emissary from Flowing Cloud Pavilion had already returned to the Central Plains. Yuntian Laozu had always been a slippery character. He had suffered 3 consecutive losses at Lu Ping's hands, but had never lost his life. He was considered a rare opponent among Lu Ping. This time, he had deliberately sent a disciple from his sect to the North Sea to befriend Jinling. He was probably thinking of apologizing to Lu Ping. From this point, it could be seen that Qian Changming had a very good understanding of his master's intentions. From Lu Ping's point of view, this pure yang practitioner had most likely received some news from Wuxing School. After being frightened by the shocking strength that Lu Ping had displayed, he had hurriedly sent a disciple from his sect to apologize to Lu Ping in order to avoid another retaliation from Lu Ping. After all, when Lu Ping was at the late Dharma stage, he could already cause chaos in Flowing Cloud Pavilion. Now that he had advanced to the pure yang stage, if Lu Ping really wanted to take revenge, he would no longer care about the people who were watching. Lu Tianling accepted the gift from Flowing Cloud Pavilion and then sent Li Tianru back to Flowing Cloud Pavilion with Qian Changming to express his gratitude. This could be considered as setting the tone for the 2 large sects to be on good terms. Presumably, Yuntian Laozu would also be able to understand sect leader Jinling's intentions. As Jinling had a pure yang practitioner in charge, and even had the possibility of becoming a holy land in the eyes of outsiders, Jinling's external strategy would probably change accordingly. Seeing that Lu Ping had arrived, Lu Tianling was a little worried. "Must you go to the East Sea this time?" Lu Ping nodded and said, "I'm afraid this is the best and last opportunity to suppress the Crystal Palace. If we miss this opportunity, after 100 years, whether Xiao Baiyu and Skyrend will still maintain the alliance of the 5 sects because of the pressure from the Crystal Palace is unknown. Therefore, the gains from this trip to Phantom Island this time are crucial to the development of our sect for the next 100 years. After a pause, Lu Ping continued, "Not to mention, I'm going to the Eastern Sea to fulfill a promise I made to a senior cultivator. This senior cultivator has helped me a lot, and she's also been a great help to our sect. So, it's only right for me to help her." Lu Tianling thought for a while and asked, "Is it that Longhuai ancestor? What exactly is this person's background? Does Ninth Brother know anything about it?" "It's this person," Lu Ping continued. "This Longhuai ancestor's background is mysterious. This person should be considered a spirit demon, but he has a bloodline inheritance. He has experienced a lot of time and knows a lot of secrets. I even suspect that this person might be related to Zhao Daoren of the 7th Patriarch." Seeing that his teacher was shocked, Lu Ping quickly said, "Of course, this is just disciple's guess." Lu Tianling nodded and said, "If that's the case, then Ninth Brother, have you ever thought about whether letting this person out of the cultivation world is a blessing or a curse? Was the sky poison wall set up by Zhao Daoren to protect him or to imprison him? Is everything he did to help you, Old Nine, just to cover up his plot against you?" Lu Ping really didn't think about this, because ever since Lu Ping came into contact with the Longhuai ancestor, whether it was his bloodline or his soul, Lu Ping could feel kindness from the Longhuai ancestor. This kind of feeling was something that Lu Ping could only feel but not describe, let alone say it to others. The only thing that Lu Ping could use to convince his teacher was the selfless help and rescue of the Longhuai ancestor several times. No matter what, disciple has to give it a try. Otherwise, it will be hard to feel at ease. If it is really a disaster, disciple still has 3 of the Luan Daoist life feathers. No matter how strong the Longhuai ancestor is, he has been imprisoned in the sky poison wall for tens of thousands of years and can't escape. At the very least, he can't compare to the 7th Patriarch of Sky Splitting. With the sky-splitting divine ability sealed in the life feathers, disciple can at least escape unscathed. Lu Tianling saw that Lu Ping had made up his mind, so he no longer tried to persuade him. Instead, he asked, "Do you need anyone else to go with you to the Fantasy Spirit Island this time?" Lu Ping said, "Martial Uncle Jiang and Martial Uncle Gua will lead the team. Martial Uncle Jiang will still be in charge of the Fantasy Spirit Palace's affairs. I won't show my face. When the time comes, it will still depend on each person's strength. I will also have to secretly fight with the Crystal Palace's pure yang. Other than that, there won't be too many risks. However, after Disciple leaves, there will definitely be a storm in the North Sea. I will need Martial Uncle Tian Xiang, teacher, and martial uncle made to take the risk. Lu Tianling smiled and said, "You set up the overall situation, but only left us to pull the net. If we can't even endure this kind of risk, then Zhenling deserves to not have the luck to become a holy land in the future. Even if you have 3 heads and 6 arms, you won't be able to take care of the important matters of the sect. You have done enough for the sect, and it is time for us to fight for the sect." Lu Ping said seriously, "In any case, please be careful. The opponents are all the top existences in this world. Although the 3 of you have your life feathers to protect yourselves, you may not be able to do everything. When the time comes, you just need to guard the sect and wait for Disciple to return." Lu Tianling suddenly smiled and said, "Old Nine, do you know what the trump card that Lao Tzu left for the sect's sect protection array was?" Chapter 1477. Xiao Baiyu used the sky-cracking sword Qi to control the pure yang flying sword, but it couldn't break the light curtain of spirit wine Lao Tzu's crystal pagoda. Xiao Baiyu was shocked, but he immediately realized that the person he had defeated before had probably become a true spirit. Only in this way could the invincible sky-cracking sword Qi be defeated by spirit wine Lao Tzu's natal spiritual treasure. It should be known that Xiao Baiyu's pure yang flying sword was not an ordinary pure yang spiritual treasure. It was made by smelting half of the broken sword that Jiao Daoren used to open the sky. Although its power couldn't compare with a heaven-opening artifact, it was much stronger than an ordinary pure yang spiritual treasure. Since Spirit Wine Lao Tzu had become a true spirit, it meant that the Crystal Palace's true spirit cultivator had completed the handover. The previous true spirit cultivator should be at the end of his lifespan, or he didn't want to stay in the mini-kiliacosm of the Crystal Palace anymore and was ready to go to the North Ice Field. If this was the case, it was normal for Lao Tzu, the true spirit cultivator of Wuxing School, to kill several enemies of the Crystal Palace before he went to the North Ice Field. As for Spirit Wine Lao Tzu, after becoming a true spirit, a cultivator did have 1 year to spend in the cultivation world. This was the case for Zhenling's Ginseng Lao Tzu. However, after a cultivator became a true spirit, he would usually use this 1 year to consolidate his cultivation. It was precisely because after a cultivator became a true spirit, his cultivation would fluctuate and there was a risk of falling from a true spirit at any time. That was why this world tolerated them. At this critical moment, the Crystal Palace suddenly had 2 true spirit cultivators who didn't care about the mini-kiliacosm for the time being. Obviously, they had planned this beforehand. If this was the case, they were really targeting Xiao Baiyu and Lu Ping. Although Lu Ping didn't know whether Xiao Baiyu was telling the truth or not, Xiao Baiyu didn't need to scare him. With a slight movement of his mind, he had scanned the surrounding 300 miles with his divine thought. At the same time, he was inevitably eager to test the true spirit cultivator Lao Tzu's real strength. With a strange cry, Lu Xiaoping pulled out the willow sword on his back. He took 2 steps in the air and hid behind the sky-cracking sword. At the moment when the crystal tower suppressed the sky-cracking sword Qi again, Lu Xiaoping shouted "Kill." The willow sword suddenly shot out and pointed at the place where the sky-cracking sword was stabbed. He used the great magical power serial flying kill. There was an exclamation in the air, and the light curtain hanging down from the crystal tower was instantly pierced. Although this attack relied more on the power of Xiao Baiyu's pure yang sky-cracking sword, the timing of Lu Ping's attack and the great swordsmanship of the Avatar were all amazing. Even the spirit cultivator Lao Tzu of the Crystal Palace couldn't help praising him as he was his enemy. However, although Lu Ping's strength was beyond the expectations of the spirit cultivator Lao Tzu, Lu Xiaoping's attack stopped after breaking the light curtain of the crystal tower. Not only did it not have the power to move forward, it did not pose a threat to the crystal tower at all. Even the spirit cultivator Lao Tzu of the Crystal Palace couldn't help praising him as he was his enemy. The difference between the real spirit and the pure yang was actually so huge. Lu Ping had already judged the difference in strength between the two from the exchange of blows. He couldn't help but feel inexplicably shocked. The sky-cracking sword had already bravely charged forward again. Xiao Baiyu saw that Lu Xiaoping had yet to recover from the previous attack, and it was obviously difficult for him to hold back the spirit cultivator Lao Tzu by himself. He hurriedly explained, Lu Xiaoyu, don't panic. This person has always been clumsy. However, when he was at the pure yang level, his defensive ability was even better than that of the Earth's spiritual son of Wuxing School. Now that he has become a real spirit, he will definitely be more difficult to deal with, but he is also clumsier. At this time, Lu Ping and Xiao Baiyu were in a difficult position. Normally, no matter which pure yang cultivator came from the Crystal Palace, Lu Ping and Xiao Baiyu could calmly deal with them. However, the two of them were facing a real spirit cultivator Laozu. No matter if it was the sky-cracking sword or Lu Xiaoping, the real spirit Laozu would definitely follow the spatial fluctuations and catch up to them. Therefore, Xiao Baiyu and Lu Ping had no choice but to join forces to resist the Zhenling cultivator's detection. However, this method could only delay the two of them from being discovered by the two real spirit cultivators. While the sky-cracking sword and Lu Xiaoping did not dare to retreat, they also held back the two of them. If they wanted to control the two of them at will, they had to be within a certain distance from the two of them. This distance was naturally the range of the pure yang cultivator's divine sense, which was usually 150 to 200 miles. Lu Ping and Xiao Baiyu were not ordinary pure yang cultivators, so the range that their divine sense could cover must exceed this distance, especially for Lu Ping. Although he had just advanced to the pure yang level, his divine sense could cover an area of 300 miles. Therefore, if the two real spirits of the Crystal Palace really attacked together, they had to expand the range of their search. The trap set by the Crystal Palace with the two real spirit cultivators to ambush Xiao Baiyu and Lu Ping could be considered as a lion going all out to catch a rabbit. At least in the eyes of outsiders, it was like this. With the two real spirits Laozu attacking, the Crystal Palace could re-establish their dominance over the East Sea in this battle. They could even destroy Zhenling in one fell swoop and control the North Sea cultivation world. Which of the two true spirit cultivators would find Lu Ping? Even Lu Ping himself did not know. However, no matter which one it was the most critical moment for Lu Ping, who was in a dilemma. This was because Lu Ping did not dare to leave at this time, so he could only wait for the other Crystal Palace real spirit Laozu to find him. In fact, Lu Ping and Xiao Baiyu could completely abandon the sky-splitting sword and Lu Xiaoping and retreat at this time. This way, they would not have to worry about the traces of the real spirit Laozu of the Crystal Palace using these two treasures. However, Xiao Baiyu was a pure swordsman. This pure yang flying sword was almost 1/3 of his strength, and this avatar of Lu Xiaoping did not need Lu Ping's divine will to control it, but it also had the strength comparable to a late Dharma adept. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Lu Ping was not willing to abandon it. At this moment, Xiao Baiyu suddenly shouted, "Oh no, I've been discovered." With that, the sky-splitting sword spun around, and the body of the sword directly opened up a passage in the void, intending to escape. Unexpectedly, the crystal tower, which had previously appeared clumsy in the process of fighting with the sky-splitting sword and Lu Xiaoping, suddenly appeared above the space passage that the sky-splitting sword had opened. That Yuanju Laozu laughed loudly, and the 9th level of the crystal tower shone brightly. A crystal-clear light curtain hung down, and the space passage immediately collapsed. However, the sky-splitting sword did not plunge into the open space passage at this time. Instead, the moment it broke open the space passage, it suddenly turned and disappeared into the void in the opposite direction, leaving only Xiao Baiyu's cold laughter in the void. "Yuanjiu, old man, I know that you are used to taking advantage of the situation. Even if I fall into your trap today, don't even think about taking advantage of me." The crystal tower failed to stop the sky-splitting sword. Xiao Baiyu's seemingly angry words did not cause the slightest fluctuation in Yuanju Laozu's mood. Instead, he laughed softly and said, "Still as slippery as before, but this time, you may not be able to escape." With that, the crystal tower turned and flew in another direction. There was still a spatial fluctuation left there, which was the place where Lu Ping's avatar had disappeared. Under the control of the true spirit Laozu, the crystal tower could completely capture the direction in which Lu Xiaoping had left. A moment after the crystal tower chased after the direction in which Lu Xiaoping had left, A cultivator in his 40s with a huge red nose stepped out of the void and appeared in the void where the sky-splitting sword, the crystal tower, and Lu Xiaoping had fought. The cultivator closed his eyes and carefully sensed the spatial fluctuations around him. It did not take long before he found the spatial imprint left behind by the crystal pagoda. The cultivator smiled and took a step forward, disappearing from sight once more. Just before Xiao Baiyu suddenly shouted that he was found by the other true spirit of the Crystal Palace, Lao Zu, Lu Ping immediately ordered Lu Xiaoping to return, even if it meant exposing his location. At the same time, a thought suddenly emerged in Lu Ping's mind. Could this be a conspiracy by Xiao Baiyu and the Crystal Palace? Although Lu Ping did not hear the conversation between Yuan Laozu and Xiao Baiyu because he had withdrawn Lu Xiaoping in the first place, he rejected this idea as soon as it emerged in Lu Ping's mind. At this time, it was completely impossible for Xiao Baiyu to plot against him, because before he advanced to the true spirit, he still needed to resist the pressure from the Crystal Palace. The surface of the 12 elemental Chen beads, which had just passed through the second lightning tribulation, shone even more brilliantly. The white jade lotus flower array gradually began to disappear from the void under their feet. However, the white jade lotus flower array was still a first tribulation spiritual treasure. Just when Lu Ping had just set up the Gentian formation, Lu Xiaoping had already escaped from the void. Lu Ping withdrew his external incarnation and flew backward, trying to leave this place with the divine sense of space. Hee, can you still escape? A mocking voice sounded. The Crystal Palace forcibly broke through the space tunnel and arrived in front of Lu Ping. Then, the Crystal Palace shone brightly, and the void was immediately sealed. Lu Ping's divine sense of space instantly lost its effect. However, Lu Ping had never thought that he could escape from the pursuit of a true soul cultivator, Lao Zu. All he did was to make Spirit Wine Lao Zu lower his guard. The moment the crystal tower appeared, the densely packed, multicolored light emitted from the surface of the 12 gentian beads intertwined with each other and resonated with the white jade lotus formation below, forming a multicolored space that completely trapped the crystal tower in the formation. Overturn the sky. The void collapsed. Although the crystal tower could suppress the divine sense of space, when the entire void began to collapse, the crystal tower could do nothing. Chapter 1478. Xiao Baiyu was on the run. Even though Lao Zu, a celestial being, was chasing him, Xiao Baiyu did not panic. Instead, he remained calm. However, the only thing that puzzled him was that the void was still calm. How was it that Origin Wine had not found Lu Tianping yet? Could it be that Lu Tianping was even more powerful than him? This was impossible. Xiao Baiyu did not believe that Lu Ping had surpassed him in terms of strength. Perhaps he would in the future, but he was definitely not a match for him now. Yes, the reason was because of Origin Wine. That fellow had just become a celestial being, and his cultivation had not stabilized yet. He had delayed until now in order to play it safe. Unknowingly, the sky-splitting sword saint, known as the #1 pure yang cultivator in the cultivation world, Xiao Baiyu, had placed Lu Ping on equal footing with him. At this critical moment of life and death, they were even secretly competing to see who could hide from celestial being Lao Zu for the longest time. Perhaps it was to confirm what Xiao Baiyu had just thought. At this moment, a turbulent wave of spiritual qi suddenly surged from the void hundreds of miles behind him. At that moment, the surrounding void was annihilated, and the violent spatial vibrations directly affected Xiao Baiyu's surroundings. It even caused Xiao Baiyu's restrained aura to leak out for a moment. Not good. Xiao Baiyu was shocked. He calmed down the turbulence in the surrounding void, and the moment he restrained the spiritual qi around him, he used the sky-splitting sword as an escape sword. By combining the escape technique with spatial magic, Xiao Baiyu's speed increased by another level. However, it was all too late. It was that moment of exposure that allowed celestial being Lao Zu, who had been chasing Xiao Baiyu, to capture his location. The surrounding space seemed to compress. An old man with white hair and a beard seemed to be walking slowly, but every step he took seemed to cross countless spaces. Xiao Baiyu could only feel that the distance between them was rapidly shrinking. Xiao Baiyu, since you have already received the inheritance of Joshuan Tower, you already know that you cannot escape from the old man. The old man strolled leisurely behind Xiao Baiyu. He was not in a hurry to stop Xiao Baiyu. Instead, he tried to persuade him. Unexpectedly, Xiao Baiyu really stopped in the void, turned around, and cupped his hands towards the Crystal Palace's Laozu. Senior must be Danju Laozu from the Crystal Palace. Junior Xiao Baiyu, being able to compete with Senior today is enough to satisfy me. The old man looked at Xiao Baiyu in amusement. Do you really think you are a match for the old man? Do you know the true difference between a celestial being and a pure young cultivator? Xiao Baiyu smiled. Since Senior has already said that I have received the inheritance of Joshuan Tower, how could I not know the true difference between a pure young cultivator and a celestial being? However, it is also because of this that I also know that although Senior has become a celestial being, I am afraid that you do not dare to use your full strength in this world. Otherwise, even if the heavenly punishment does not descend immediately, Senior will not stay here for long. Why should I fear a celestial being Laozu who is only a celestial being but has to use a pure young technique? In comparison, I am even luckier than the North Sea Water Sword Immortal. Danju Laozu snorted coldly. As the guardian of the Crystal Palace, the old man would rather suffer the heavenly punishment to get rid of a scourge like you. The smile on Xiao Baiyu's face disappeared. He said in a low voice, then I can only bet that Senior does not dare to exchange your own safety for this Xiao's life. If Senior insists on taking the heavenly punishment to attack this Xiao, then this Xiao will accept my fate. In the end, Xiao Baiyu suddenly showed a sarcastic expression and said, Senior, do you really have the courage to perish together with me? Danju Laozu's expression turned cold. Although the old man cannot stay in this world for too long, before the heavenly punishment descends, I at least have the confidence to attack with all my strength. Does fellow Xiao have the confidence to receive it? Danju Laozu's words were actually admitting that he did not dare to perish together with Xiao Baiyu. However, even though Xiao Baiyu had seen descriptions of the true spirit Laozu's full strength in the 9 mystical towers' ancient books, he had never seen it for himself. It was absolutely impossible to say that he was not nervous. However, just as Danju Laozu asked this, he saw a trace of fanaticism suddenly appear on Xiao Baiyu's face. This trace of fanaticism was the same as the inexplicable excitement that Lu Ping had when he found out that he was about to encounter the true spirit Laozu. It was a kind of pursuit and desire for the limit. At this moment, the sky splitter under Xiao Baiyu's feet seemed to conform to its master's wishes. The crisp sound of the sword swept across half of the space with endless fighting spirit. Even Danju Laozu slowly withdrew the smile on his face at this moment. His gaze towards Xiao Baiyu was a little more solemn. This kind of fearless mentality that never knows what despair is. The old man has not seen such a mentality since he became a true spirit. It has been a long time. The heavenly poisonous wall was a forbidden place in the cultivation world of the East Sea. According to the legend of the cultivation world, this secret place was formed when Jiao Daoran mistakenly took Taoist Gui's poisonous elixir and forced out his poisonous blood. In order to prevent the toxicity of the heavenly poisonous wall from spreading, Jiao Daoran was seriously injured and set up the heavenly poisonous wall to prevent the spread of the toxicity of the heavenly poisonous wall to the whole cultivation world. However, according to the historical records of the Crystal Palace, the heavenly poisonous wall was a place full of strangeness and danger. Even the founder of the Crystal Palace had vaguely guessed from Taoist whose words that there might be some amazing existence hidden in the heavenly poisonous wall when Taoist who sat down to listen to Taoist whose teachings. However, Laozu, the true spirit of the Crystal Palace, had sent practitioners to try to sneak into the heavenly poisonous wall to investigate, but in the end, they either got some treasures of heaven and earth or never came back. Therefore, the heavenly poisonous wall remained mysterious to the gurus of the Crystal Palace. Until 8,000 years ago, a pure young practitioner of the Crystal Palace could not restrain his curiosity and took the risk to sneak into the heavenly poisonous wall 1 year after he became a true spirit and his cultivation was not stable. trying to reveal the secret of the heavenly poisonous wall to the world. However, what really shocked the Crystal Palace happened. Soon after the pure young practitioner broke into the heavenly poisonous wall, a huge turbulence of spiritual chi broke out inside, which was obviously caused by a fierce fight. However, before the Crystal Palace could respond and send more people to the rescue, the legendary turbulence of spiritual chi in the secret place suddenly disappeared, and the true spirit cultivator of the Crystal Palace never returned to the Crystal Palace. The soul lamp that represented his life and death in the Crystal Palace also went out. When the battle broke out, the two pure young cultivators from Water Crystal Palace who had first entered the myriad poison firmament wall to receive this patriarch had also disappeared. Their soul lamps had also extinguished, proving that the two pure young cultivators had already perished. If Lao Tzu, who had just become a true spirit, had caused a big movement in the heavenly poisonous wall that almost shocked the entire East Ocean, then the two pure young practitioners were like a drop of water falling into the sea. They could not even make a sound. This also proved that the Crystal Palace Lao Tzu, who had become a true spirit, could not do anything to the mysterious existence in the heavenly poisonous wall. This incident made the Crystal Palace very frightened, and they were on emergency alert for a long time. However, the mysterious existence hidden in the secret place of the fallen site never retaliated against the Crystal Palace. Although the expected retaliation did not come, the Crystal Palace was secretly on alert and in panic for a whole 200 years because the Crystal Palace Lao Tzu, who had just become a true spirit, was preparing to inherit the previous true spirit and continue to be the guardian of the mini-kiliacosm of the Crystal Palace. Because of his sudden death, along with the two pure young cultivators who had perished, the previous true spirit guardian of the Crystal Palace had no choice but to stay for an additional 100 years. Only then did he decide to head to the northern ice plains and leave this world despite the pleas of the entire Crystal Palace. The true spirit cultivators also had a limited lifespan. After becoming a true spirit, the guardians of the Holy Land had to stay in the mini-kiliacosm, which made it impossible for them to make any progress in their cultivation. They could only waste their lifespan. Therefore, these supreme powerhouses often guarded the Holy Land for 300 to 500 years at most before they left this world to pursue a broader world. The previous true spirit Lao Tzu of the Crystal Palace had to stay for an extra 100 years because of the death of his successor and the possible threat from the sky wall of poison. He had already done his best. If he stayed any longer, what was the point of leaving this world when his lifespan was about to end? However, 100 years could not allow the Crystal Palace to cultivate a new successor, which made the Crystal Palace once faced a situation very similar to the situation before the 9 Mystical Tower was destroyed. Fortunately, the news of the death of the Crystal Palace's true spirit Lao Tzu was not spread out. The cultivation world did not know that the inheritance of the Crystal Palace's true spirit had been broken. Without the support of the true spirit Lao Tzu, the Crystal Palace had always maintained a strong position in Donghai. However, after waiting in fear for 100 years, the Crystal Palace finally welcomed a new true spirit cultivator. The inheritance of the true spirit was continued again, and the glory of the Holy Land was finally maintained. However, although the crisis had passed, the Crystal Palace had always been secretive about the secret fallen site. Every time the sky wall of poison weakened, the Crystal Palace still sent cultivators into it to search for rare treasures and never gave up exploring the secret fallen site covered by the sky wall of poison. However, the cultivators above the pure yang level, who could damage the sect, never entered it again. The mysterious existence that the entire Crystal Palace was very afraid of also never appeared again. Originally, Yuan Jilaozu was a little hesitant about Lu Ping appearing in front of the sky wall of poison, but he still did not hesitate to attack and kill this genius cultivator who had also disturbed the control of the Crystal Palace over the overseas cultivation world like Xiao Baiyu. However, he never thought that Lu Ping would break the sky wall of poison without hesitation and break in. The sky wall of poison was the ancient taboo of the Crystal Palace. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.